Chapter 221. Do not worry too. Can I eat this? Cal ignored the super rock and the glutton. He clenched and then unclenched his fists. Let's use it. He decided to use the fiery thunderbolt. Thunderbolts had a tendency to be much stronger over water. That was why he needed the fiery thunderbolt in order to destroy the mage's thunderbolts. He could not take a step back and just watch when others were getting hurt. Crackle, crackle. The fiery thunderbolt started to fiercely rotate in Cal's hands. At the same time, the sky started to roar above his head. Rumble. That noise made Choi Han raise his head. He could see the clear sky. However, Rayon was speaking in his mind. Choi Han, our human, says he is going to strike with the fiery thunderbolt, but don't worry since I will be the one to do it. I am a bit great and mighty. The child's ramblings continued in his head. Although it could sound annoying, Choi Han smiled and swung his sword. Slice, the black aura cut through a piece of the deck. Ha ha ha, I haven't seen such an entertaining human like this in a long time. The mage with white gold hair dodged the black aura as he continued to laugh. It could not be helped. Choi Han was charging at him with red eyes even though he had injuries throughout his body. He had not seen anybody do something like this in a long time. What a chaotic aura. He could see the black aura shooting out in multiple directions. This chaotic aura was running wild as if to show that the calm and peaceful aura from earlier was all a lie. At the same time, it felt free. You've been wearing a mask. He had taken off the mask that made him look poised as a noble or a knight and returned to his wild self. He was like a wild animal that did not look at anything other than its prey. However, the mage sneered at the wild animal. You think you can beat me? How entertaining. This wild animal was probably the strongest swordsman among the humans. He was born with a significant amount of talent. Due to that reason, this wild animal had probably never met an overwhelmingly strong opponent like himself. That was what the mage was thinking. Who did you say will win? However, Choi Han was the weakling instead of the dominant wild animal, the forest of darkness. He had been the weakest existence in there. He had to dig a hole and hide underneath for multiple days at a time, even while starving himself in order to survive. And there were times that he would have to go days without being able to sleep. He could not even groan when he was in pain. He needed to survive. It was a matter of life and death instead of winning and losing. The enemy had to die for him to survive. That was it. I will kill you. Choi Han kicked off the dragon that was made of wind and water and shot up into the air. The black aura became a rotating arrow as both Choi Han and his sword shot toward the mage. It seemed to be a violent attack. It was also an attack that would not let go of the enemy, regardless of whether they were strong or weak. Ha! The mage sneered at Choi Han once more and dodged. Bang, bang. The black aura arrow and the water dragon's jaws soon landed where the mage had been standing. Goo, the ship started to tilt toward one direction as it slowly started to sink. Save, run. The people from the Indomitable Alliance who were on the ship tried to escape. However, the small thunderbolt was still on top of the water, and light mana orbs were continuing to shoot into the water. It was light with the thunder attribute. Ugh! The moans of the people who escaped into the water could be heard. However, those moans could not be properly delivered above the water. Roar! The dragon's mouth that was filled with both wind and water rushed toward the mage once again. Bang! Another piece of the deck broke off with a loud noise. The mage had already moved back into the air. The water dragon was right on his tail. The water dragon and the mage looked like two snakes that were coiling together. And then there was the black aura that was aiming for the mage's neck. Pow, 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 the mana orbs shot out, but they were useless. So annoying! The mage started to frown. The black bone wyvern that was almost completely destroyed continued to use its body in order to defend the water dragon from the mana orbs. The mage who was staring at the black bone wyvern made eye contact with Choi Han. Choi Han asked a question in confusion. Why are you running away? The mage started to smile. Oh, you were aware of it. It was at that moment. Boom, 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 they could hear the sound of drums. At the same time, Choi Han realized that a different noise had disappeared. Rumble, the roaring of the sky. The sound of Cal and Rayon's fiery thunderbolt had disappeared. Instead, it was the sound of drums that was taking over the area. Boom, 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 boom. It was not just one ship. The largest of the Indomitable Alliance's ships were full of people beating on the drums. These large ships had braved the roaring water in order to get from the shores to the vicinity of the Silver Shield. Boom, boom, there were people in black outfits with stars on their chests beating the drums while standing on the deck. They were members of ARM. Choi Han's body started to move up. The water dragon was shooting up into the sky. He could finally see it. He looked down at where he had been fighting against the dragon half-blood mage. He could see the ship that was starting to sink. The large ships were creating a circle with that ship at the center. There were a total of 20 ships. He could not see the Indomitable Alliance people who were the original navigators. People wearing ARM's black outfits had taken over all of the positions. At the same time, something was happening on the decks of these large ships. Uwuong lights started to appear from their decks. They were creating magic circles with high-grade magic stones. No way. Choi Han looked down at the 20 magic circles and suddenly had a thought. Are they all a single spell? Ahahaha, now do you get it? Choi Han could see the mage continuing to laugh. The mage then opened his arms up. This is the strength of the human mages that I have trained. Choi Han thought about what Cal had told him before. ARM supposedly has a magic brigade as well. Choi Han realized who had created that magic brigade. He subconsciously stomped his foot. Splash, splash. The water on the top of the water dragon's head splashed. Choi Han was asking Rayon a question with his actions. I don't know anything about magic, but Rayon, you know what is going on, right? Isn't that the case? Choi Han continued to tap the head of the water dragon with his foot. However, he soon pulled his sword back out. Let's go. The water dragon started to move again the moment Choi Han spoke, hoping that Rayon heard him. Why do you still not give up? Choi Han could see the mage sneering at him. However, Choi Han focused his gaze on the mage as he let the water dragon quickly move forward. Splash, splash, the large water dragon cut through the water in a rough fashion. It was rushing forward while trying to attack the mage. The black bone wyvern followed behind the water dragon as well. The mage laughed as he welcomed them with open arms. Boom, boom, the 20 magic circles started to intertwine and become fused as one. The mage, who was standing in the middle of all of this, was still laughing. I will kill you all. I haven't had this much fun in a long time. At the same time, multiple light mana orbs started to float around him. He welcomed the still-developing wild animal with a bright smile. Come. Choi Han looked at the mage as he kicked off of the water dragon's head and shot up into the air. It was the moment that the mage smiled while seeing him jump up. Tap. The black bone wyvern supported the bottom of Choi Han's foot. He passed by the mage just like that. The black aura sharply curved. Bang. A loud explosion occurred on the large ship that the magic circle was being fused together on. The black aura looked like the devil as it caused a ruckus on the ship's deck. You bastards! The water dragon attacked the mage at that moment. Roar! Choi Han could hear the roar of the water dragon. Snap! Snap! The mage, who had only been snapping until now, used both hands in order to cast different magic spells. He pierced the water dragon's mouth with a light spear. He then cast a shield on the ship so that the black aura could not destroy it anymore. How entertaining. The mage was scoffing at Choi Han, who tried to use such a strategy. But you are too late. Snap, snap, snap. The mage started to snap multiple times as shields appeared around all 20 ships. Choi Han and the wyvern were unable to break through those shields. It was at that moment. Boom. The drumming stopped. Silence filled the area. This made Choi Han have an ominous feeling. He could see a large purple magic circle. There was an eerie power coming out from the magic circle. Choi Han then turned to see that the mage was smiling widely. He could also see the mage's cold eyes. The silence finally broke. Humans really have many things to pay attention to. The man with the cold gaze confidently spoke to Choi Han. That is why they are annoying and pitiful. Well, I guess it is cute as well. Boom, all 20 ships beat their drums at the same time. It was at that moment. Ooh, the lines connecting the 20 magic circles together started to shake. Purple light then started to spread in the air. Ugh. Choi Hen grabbed onto the wyvern's neck bone. Swoosh, swoosh, wind was gathering inside the magic circle. The black bone wyvern was having a hard time flying straight, almost as if it was in a storm. He heard the mage laughing at that moment. Ha 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 ha, how pitiful. All of the people in the castle are going to die. The mage looked as if he wanted to roll over and laugh his heart out. Choi Hen whispered to the black bone wyvern's bones. Mary, let's go. Choi Hen did not know where he wanted to go. However, he continued to tell the black bone wyvern and in turn Mary to go. We need to go. Mary. However, the black bone wyvern was faltering and unable to navigate the rough winds. The black bones were still sturdy, however. It seemed to be low on power after defending against the lights with its body. Choi Hen then felt something above his head. He lifted his head up in order to see. He could see the purple sky and a purple wind that was heading toward it. Swoosh, the wind now resembled vines as it wrapped around each other. It then finally turned into one large orb. The purple orb was roaring as if it was ready to bring down disaster onto the world. Boom, boom, boom. The beating of the drums could be heard again. Kahahaha, ah, so fun. I knew it would be fun to come to watch. The mage turned toward Choi Han. He could see Choi Han blankly staring at the wind. What do you think? This is what great magic is like. The mage gently asked the first person he was curious about in a long time. However, his expression soon turned odd. Yes, it is great and mighty. Choi Han was smiling. He could see a small light beyond the purple orb and the purple sky. It was slowly cutting through the purple sky. That light was red in color. It was a color that Choi Han was familiar with. He started to slowly smile. He could see the water dragon flying back toward him. Choi Han, you won't get hurt. Neither will Mary's bones. He could hear Rayon's voice in his head. Choi Han saw a flashing red light at that moment. It was the fiery thunderbolt. The fiery thunderbolt was headed down toward the purple orb. He could feel Cal and Rayon in the thunderbolt. Rayon's strong power was especially present in it. Splash, Choi Han and the black bone wyvern grabbed the water dragon at that moment. Actually, it was more as if they were embracing it. The water dragon quickly moved and stopped somewhere. They passed by the Indomitable Alliance's fleet. They then approached the large silver shield that was blocking the enemy. Choi Han looked toward the other side of the shield. He could see someone standing there. Are you okay? Cal asked in a calm voice. He had his usual stoic expression as he handed Choi Han a potion. At the same time, the fiery thunderbolt in Cal's other hand, as well as the fact that Cal had curled up in order to not get hurt, caught Choi Han's attention. Hey, stick to the shield. Cal ignored the smiling Choi Han and stuck close to Rayon's shield. He then covered his ears. Bang, the fiery thunderbolt pierced through the purple orb. I truly am the great and mighty Rayon Meru, and I am 6 years old. I am great and mighty. Cal started to think. Dragons really are great and mighty. Chapter 222. Do not worry 3. The super rock's imposing voice quickly disappeared. Boom. The silver shield started to shake. Well, Rayon's silver shield was shaking violently, and Cal could feel it shaking at the tip of his hands. Holy F! Cal just barely managed to prevent himself from swearing. The ocean, the sky, the red thunderbolt, and the purple wind. All of those mixed together, making it impossible to tell where the sky ended and where the ocean started. The roaring storm made it so that you could not see the ocean beyond the silver shield. Swoosh, bang, bang, bang. The wind was knocking on the silver shield. It had drawn up the ocean water and turned it into something similar to hail, looking as if it wanted to swallow up the silver shield as well. A serious situation would have occurred if this wind would have reached Castle Leona or the Central Shores. Both of the mountains to the sides of Castle Leona would have been destroyed, killing many people in the process. Cal peeked out with his eye through the rough winds and tried to see beyond the silver shield. Splash, he felt the ocean water splashing on his head. A giant waterspout was spinning beyond the silver shield. The waterspout did not seem to be able to support its large size. Human, did you see my strength? I did that. Cal had only used a very weak version of the fiery thunderbolt. The majority of it was Rayon's magic. This kid has gotten much stronger ever since he fought against that fake dragon slayer. Yes, you are a bit G-cough. Cal let out a light cough. He then wiped his mouth with his sleeve. He had a salty taste in his mouth. Human, why are you bleeding when you didn't even use 1/3 of the strength in my paw? Did I calculate wrong? That's impossible. How weak is your body that you use power that is the equivalent to the size of a rat's poop and you still cough up blood? You truly are an incomprehensible mystery. Cal responded back while feeling refreshed. I'm fine. However, the invisible Rayon and Choi Han started to frown. On the other hand, Cal now had a decent idea about how his reaction to the ancient powers worked. The indestructible shield has definitely gotten stronger ever since the glutton priestess ate the vitality of the heart last time. That was why the shield no longer put any burden on Cal's body, unless it received enough damage to break. However, the other ancient powers still made the vitality of the heart work if he used just a little bit of it. I can't do much about it since my plate is small. It was like this because the plate inside Cal's body, the source of his abilities, was lacking. I'm fine, so don't worry. He casually waved the two of them away and looked down at the battlefield. He could calmly observe the scene since Rayon's silver shield was very strong. There had been explosions and a waterspout occurring for the last 10 minutes. The ocean slowly calmed down and returned to normal. Drip. Drip. Cal felt water dropping on his head as he continued to look beyond the silver shield. Everything was destroyed. Cal had his gaze focused and did not respond, even when he heard Choi Han's voice. Choi Han understood Cal's reaction. Everything was broken. All of the numerous ships that had been on the water were flipped or destroyed. He could also see the dead and barely alive soldiers. Seeing the pitiful situation of the enemies outside this safe shield made it easy to understand what Cal was thinking. That was the type of person he was. However, Choi Han was only half right. Cal started to speak. Rayon, why he could not believe the scene in front of him. Why did the dragon half-blood not use a shield? What Choi Han turned his head to look toward Cal. He could see Cal looking shocked. Rayon started to speak to both of them. Human, Choi Han, something is weird. Rayon had seen a white gold shield surrounding the large ship just before the fiery thunderbolt pierced through the purple mana orb. Someone with that dragon half-blood's level of skill would be able to protect them, but it looks like he withdrew the shield. What Choi Han was shocked. He didn't use a shield to protect his allies. Wait, he removed the ones that were present as well. Why? It was the moment that question came out of Choi Han's mouth. His body started to move, its coming roar. Rayon's water and wind dragon shot up in front of the silver shield. Bang, an explosion happened at that moment. A light orb exploded as a part of the water dragon's body blew up, and water shot up into the air. Choi Han stepped on the silver shield in order to jump over to the other side. His rough aura shot down toward the water. Bang, 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 Choi Han's aura also ran into a few light orbs before it disappeared. The water then split open. A single person shot up through the gap in the water. The multiple layers of white gold shield around him had prevented even the water from landing on him. The person standing on top of the water was, naturally, the dragon half-blood mage. Ha, this is where I was. The mage's cheekbones went up and he started to smile before he made eye contact with Cal. His allies are dying behind him. Even those from Arm's magic brigade seem to be dying, but he is laughing. Snap. Snap. Another small thunderbolt appeared in the mage's hand as he shot it toward the shield once again. This was naturally blocked by the water dragon and Choi Han, making it unable to break through Rayon's silver shield. The thunderbolt just bounced off the shield. It then headed toward the water. Crackle. Ah. Ugh. My body. The thunderbolt fell into the water and took the lives of the mage's remaining allies. Of course, the mages who used shields or flight magic and the knights that were skilled enough to climb onto the flipped-over ships managed to survive. The soldiers of the Indomitable Alliance continued to die in large numbers. Isn't he a psycho? Cal subconsciously commented. It was at that moment. Who? The mage and Cal made eye contact. The mage ran straight toward Cal, Choi Han's sword, and the water dragon tried to get in his way. Snap. 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 However, they could not defend against the mage, who was surrounded by numerous mana orbs. Cal did not have time to escape to the back. Bang! The mage almost instantaneously reached the silver shield and crashed into it. The forehead of the dragon half-blood started to bleed. However, he was still smiling. He flattened himself against the silver shield and observed Cal, who was on the other side. To be more accurate, he was observing the area around Cal. I smell a lord. That power from earlier was definitely a dragon lord. I know it was. I've smelled it before. This crazy bastard. Cal could not help but think that way after seeing this scene that seemed to be straight out of a horror movie. Are you a dragon? The mage's eyes sparkled. The fiery thunderbolt. That thunderbolt was made up of pure natural power and mana. This was not something a human mage could do. A dragon. There was definitely a dragon's power mixed in. What is that thing that is invisible next to you? He could feel it. He could feel it clearer and clearer as he got closer. He could feel the invisible presence next to that bastard. However, the presence was faint. In fact, that red hair, Cal Henitus's presence, was much larger. The scent of nature was flowing out of him. That was why he felt that something was off. You're a dragon. Are you a dragon that came out to play? Is it you, or is it that thing next to you? Bang, bang, the dragon half-blood's two fists slammed against the shield. This crazy bastard. Does Arm only have lunatics like this? Cal looked toward the completely insane person and started to speak. A dragon that came out to play my ass. Sounds more like your brain went out to play. Stop spewing such nonsense. Ha. The dragon half-blood started to laugh at Cal's response. Yes, I knew you would be that way. Dragons are always good at doing things like this. They feign ignorance and then play around with people much weaker than them. Kahaha, how fun, this is so much. He could not finish his sentence. Scratch, the dragon half-blood moved away. A large black claw was cutting through that exact spot. It was violent enough to be moving like a dragon's front paw. However, the dragon half-blood mage was already floating in the air, still not familiar with it. It was strong but awkward. The dragon half-blood mage's pupils started to get cloudy. Perhaps. He looked back toward Cal, that clear red hair and the shield. He had thought that it was an ancient power because he originally believed it to be pure wood power. But was that really the case? He thought about the red dragon. It looked as if it was a living animal. However, that fire went out, leaving only death behind. He then recalled the fiery thunderbolt from a moment ago. It was surrounded by magic, but he felt pure fire underneath it. There was a lot of a dragon's power as well. And even me, who had received a dragon's blood. But this generation no longer has a red dragon. He was certain of it. Is it possible? Is there another person like me in experience? A dragon that had yet to go through its first growth phase was inexperienced. It didn't know how to use its powers properly. The dragon half-blood was partly a dragon as well. He naturally went through growth phases as well. Even a dragon half-blood went through 3 growth phases just like a normal dragon. He had gone through 2 growth phases. A dragon that had yet to go through its first growth phase and a dragon half-blood were easy prey for him. The mage started to laugh like a lunatic. Pee-wahaha, everything, really everything is showing up. The mage could see the water dragon, the black bone wyvern, Choi Han, and the many magic spells flying toward him from Castle Leona. He then looked back toward Cal. I guess I need to get serious as well. Light started to shine from the dragon half-blood mage's body. Human. Something is weird. Cal heard Rayon's shocked voice in his mind. That dragon half-blood has not been using all of his strength until now. That wasn't his full strength. He is strong. Cal looked toward the mage. The mage's white gold mana was roaring and making his robe flutter. At the same time, his hair started to stick up in the air. At the same time, he started to look livelier and full of vitality. The mage looked toward Choi Han, who was chasing him with the black aura. Do you know why I didn't care whether or not my allies died? Choi Han was curious, but that did not slow down. However, he still really wanted to know. He could not understand it. However, Choi Han started to frown after hearing the dragon half-blood mage's response. I want even more humans to die, the more the better. Light then started to shine from his entire body. Choi Han did not stop even though it was extremely bright. He suddenly got the chills. That bright light in front of him. That light felt like extremely thick darkness. The light that seemed to be much stronger than before felt as if it was burning his body. Choi Han could feel his palms starting to sweat. He felt as if he would die if he went into that light. I might die. His incomplete darkness would disappear without a trace. However, Choi Han did not stop. It was at that moment. I will kill all the humans. I will kill them all, even if it is the last thing I do. All, that word made Choi Han turn pale. He turned his head. He could see the Karo Kingdom's mages flying toward them, darkness that was weak against light. He thought about the dark elves as well. Perhaps, Kahahaha, die. The dragon half-blood's body shot toward the shore. And no, Choi Han turned his body. He could see something going in front of him. Crazy bastard. The red hair of the person moving in front of him caught his attention. Cal was flying in front of him while riding on the other black bone wyvern. As for Rayon, he was being the wind in order to assist the black bone wyvern and Cal. Boom! Choi Han turned his head around after hearing the loud noise. The shield, the large shield that had been blocking the path, started to rise up into the air. Silver wings appeared on both sides of it as it followed behind its master. Weak human, do not worry. I will make sure nobody gets hurt. It was not just Cal's shield that was following behind. Rayon's silver shield was following behind its master as well. However, light was fast. Speed and destruction. Those were the attributes of the mage's light. The dragon half-blood mage quickly arrived at the shores. The dark elves and bears, as well as the Karo Kingdom's mages who had come through a path Mary had made through her purification of dead mana, were all present there. There were a lot of people still on the castle walls as well. That he could see the anxious humans, those useless creatures. These were beings he would not pay any attention to if that bastard from Arm did not have him by the collar. Your Highness! The Karo Kingdom's crown, Prince Valentino, could not say anything when the chief called to him. His hand that was on the ledge was shaking. He had seen that explosion from the shores. This battle was beyond the level of human capabilities. He could now see the mage who was smiling even with a bloody gash in front of him, and then he saw behind the mage as well. Death to all! There were hundreds of light arrows. The dragon half-blood mage waved his hand with a bright smile on his face. It was the moment the mage's hand stopped. Those arrows shot down toward the humans below. Shield, activate the shields. Your Highness, please escape. Crown Prince Valentino could not say anything while looking at the attack coming from the sky. He could feel the chief trying to pull his arm, however, he could not move. The light arrows looked as if they were a punishment from God. It looked as if everything would burn down because of those arrows. Oh, Lord! The bishop called to his god as he started to run. However, the crown prince was looking at the soldiers. The castle wall was a total mess. Despair was in his eyes as he looked around. However, there was still a strand of hope. That hope was the reason. Your Highness, you must go. It was the reason he did not move, and finally he could see that hope. He could see a set of large black wings. He then saw a person with red hair on top of it. I knew it would be like this. The dragon half-blood smirked as he raised his voice. He saw the person who managed to follow him even though he was extremely fast thanks to his light affinity. Cal Henitus. He had suddenly appeared in front of the arrows. You call yourself a human even though you could move that fast. Crazy bastard. They both said things that the other could not hear. Cal reached his hand out. He felt two small paws supporting him. Let's do it. I understand, human. Everybody on the ground looked up at the sky. The sun had already set. However, night had not yet arrived. In fact, their eyes were in pain due to the extremely bright light. The light seemed to foretell the coming of the end of the world. It was the moment those hundreds of lights fell to the ground. A silver light covered the ground once more. The silver shield that resembled a Milky Way that had fallen on the ground blocked the light. Bang, 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 everybody lowered themselves onto the ground. The ground was shaking. Even the sky was shaking. The bright light made it so nobody could see anything. Ha ha ha. I knew you would protect the humans. The dragon half-blood could see Cal beyond the shield. He found it funny that Cal would defend against the light arrows even with a frown on his face. It was because he had time to run. Why would he put his own life on the line in order to kill some humans? Why would he dirty his hands like that? He could see Choi Han and the black bone wyvern that could not approach him. Yes, you cannot approach such a light. The black bone wyvern would burn if he approached, and that bastard would be seriously injured as well. That was the difference between perfect darkness and this man's imperfect darkness. Snap. 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 A teleportation magic circle appeared underneath him after he snapped 3 times. As the person who had made arms teleportation magic spells, it was easy for him. Bye, have a nice one. He smiled and looked down toward Cal. He then flinched. Cal was smiling. Cal was hearing a voice in his mind at that moment. Human, I learned that I am not great and mighty. That is why I have made up my mind. I will learn everything and understand it all in order to make it my own. The young dragon had learned something while fighting against the fake dragon slayer. If you are not great and mighty, then you have to work hard in order to get there. The young dragon had learned about disasters last time, and this time, I learned about light this time. A small light shot down from the dark sky. It was small and fast. However, the power inside of it was extremely hot and destructive. The dragon half-blood felt that it was similar to his light that he had developed for 900 years. The light was heading for his back. This bang. Another loud noise filled the air. However, only Choi Han, Cal, and Rayon could see this. The others could not see anything as the light was too bright. However, people opened their eyes after hearing the bang. The banging continued. Does he keep replenishing his stock of light arrows? Why is it that it is not stopping? There were a few people who did not close their eyes. Valentino was one of the people who had kept their eyes open, even when they were getting watery. Crown Prince Valentino kept his hands on the ledge as he slowly looked at the dark sky. The light had disappeared, and he could see something that resembled a small lamp. It seemed pitiful in comparison to the large shield and the hundreds of light arrows. The owner of that lamp was standing tall. Commander Cal, the black bone wyvern and the red-haired man. Cal waited until the light that surrounded the sky disappeared. And then once the calm night returned, Cal started to move. He pulled back the silver light. Drip. Drip. Cal could see the drops of blood falling down from the black bone wyvern's head. This blood was the dragon half-blood mage's blood. However, Cal did not manage to catch him. I guess it hasn't gone through its first growth phase. I had fun. The dragon half-blood grasped the light piercing through his body and started to laugh. He then created another volley of arrows instead of trying to escape. That was a wise decision. It held Rayon and Cal back and prevented Choi Han from approaching him. The light arrows headed toward Choi Han and the black bone wyvern this time. You can't do this if you have a weak mind. The dragon half-blood used teleportation magic, while Rayon had no choice but to put a shield around Choi Han. The two split apart like that. Cal recalled the dragon half-blood's voice that had spoken to him in his mind. You are like me, a person who has received dragon blood, so I will protect the young you. However, I will also be the one to kill you. Ha 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 ha. What kind of bullshit is this? However, Cal didn't pay much attention to it. Human. I left a trace. Let's go catch him as well. It wouldn't matter once they caught him. I'm sorry, Cal Nim. Choi Han flew over on the black bone wyvern and started to speak. Tap, tap. Cal patted him on the shoulder and responded back. Let's go down. Cal looked down below. He could see people standing there. The people who have survived the attack of the light arrows were looking up at Cal. Boom! The black bone wyvern descended, and Cal stepped back down onto the ground. Vice Captain Hilsman ran toward him as soon as he landed. Cal let out a fake cough after seeing Hilsman's sorry sight. Their allies had survived while one enemy had escaped. This was good enough. They just needed to capture the one that ran away. That was what Cal was thinking as he opened his mouth to speak to Hilsman. It was at that moment. Young Master Nim, no, Commander Nim, the shield truly did not break. Hilsman's voice was full of admiration. Cal started to frown. He could see Crown Prince Valentino behind Hilsman with a similar expression that was full of admiration. Chapter 223. Do not worry 4. Valentino ran forward without any worry as Mary had already purified the dead mana on the ground. Commander, he grabbed onto both of Cal's hands. Egu. Cal turned his gaze beyond the Crown Prince's shoulders and off into the distance. However, Castle Leona happened to be behind Valentino. He could see the castle walls as well as the soldiers, knights, and mages standing on the wall. Many eyes were focused on Cal. Welp. That was the only thought on Cal's mind right now. He heard a voice behind him at that moment. Commander Nim, we have captured the bears that did not manage to escape onto the ships. It was the dark elf Tasha. Cal welcomed her voice. He quickly moved his hands out of Valentino's grasp and turned toward her. Tasha lifted both of her hands up once they made eye contact. She was still covered in dead mana. Commander Nim, I apologize. I can't approach you because of the dead maw. It's fine as long as we don't touch. Tasha smiled after seeing Cal walk right up to her. You are correct. You will be safe as long as we don't touch. Cal looked past Tasha's shoulder. He could see the shore in the distance. Why, you bastards? You cheaters! The other dark elves were surrounding the remaining bears. The dead mana seemed to be carried by the wind as it created a wave-like ring around the bears. It must have been hard gathering them into one spot. Cal looked at the center of the bears. He could see the large polar bear that was almost 3 meters tall. He was sitting on the ground with his berserk state removed. His body was covered in injuries. The wind from the elementals had created those injuries. It must have been hard capturing that polar bear as well. Tasha smiled at Cal, who was looking past her shoulder. There was red blood on her shoulder. The liquid dead mana and blood mixed together as it dripped down her arm. It was the proof that she was an existence that was in line with nature. Although she had dead mana, she was still similar to other life forms. Red blood was clear proof of that fact. Tasha used her hand to press down on the bloody area as she opened her mouth. Is this your first time seeing a dark elf's blood? All blood is pretty much the same color. Tasha's smile became brighter at Cal's stoic response. Cal found Tasha, who was injured but smiling brightly, to be weird as he took a handkerchief out of his pocket. I know potions don't work on you, so use this to help stop the bleeding. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Tasha caught the handkerchief Cal threw toward her as she continued to speak. Then we will take care of the rest as well. That Tasha could see the person approaching them from behind Cal. It was Crown Prince Valentino. All of the dark elves lived in the underground city underneath the land of death. This was someone who might end up ruling the Caro kingdom that encompassed the land of death. She observed how Valentino hesitated without being able to walk right up to them. He was hesitating because he was afraid of the dead mana and because he was not familiar with the dark elves. That was how the dark elves had been treated until now, and quite possibly the same thing she would end up experiencing for the rest of her life. However, Tasha noticed something different than usual. That was amazing. Let us chat later, though. I am a bit afraid of the dead mana. Tasha could see the awkward yet honest Valentino. Scary but amazing. And more importantly, he said, let's chat later. Tasha responded to Valentino's honest comments with a slight bow as she turned around. Wind gathered underneath her feet, and she quickly moved back to the shore as there was still work to be done. She could see the knights opening up a path for her to fly by them. They were opening up a path and not pointing their swords at her. That fact made it impossible for her to stop smiling. On the other hand, Cal's lips were slightly twitching. Commander. Valentino grabbed onto Cal's hands again. Cal gently pushed Valentino's hands away as he started to speak. Your Highness, there are still enemies down there and a lot of cleanup work to be done. There are also areas that still need to be purified, so it looks like we need to quickly get things rolling. Stop holding my hand and let me go. That was what Cal was implying. It was the moment he said that, screech. The doors of the central tower opened widely. Mages then carefully walked out over the purified area. They were the Caro Kingdom's mages. Some of them were already using flight magic in order to head down to the shore. Do not worry. I don't plan to burden you with all of that as well. The ships we had moved up north will head back down. The knights and the mages will capture the rest of the enemies, so you don't need to worry." Valentino stopped for a moment before continuing to speak. "But it looks like we will need to leave the dead mana to you." He did not want to leave it to the bishop or the churches with light affinity. He could not trust them. Furthermore, Valentino was currently extremely angry with the churches. However, there was a different emotion on his face as he looked at Cal. "You do not need to worry too much about everything. It looks like you can relax now. We all managed to survive thanks to your indestructible shield." Driving me nuts. Cal really felt as if he was going crazy. He wanted to quickly move away from Crown Prince Valentino's teary face. He preferred the Rhone Kingdom's Albaru. Seeing Valentino looking at him with admiration made him get the chills. "So now the rest of us need to help lessen the burden on your shoulders." What a fearsome enemy. Crown Prince Valentino was a fearsome enemy. Cal truly felt that this was the case. He had to work hard in order to prevent himself from frowning. A stoic expression. That was the most he could muster right now. Valentino closed his mouth after seeing that expression on Cal's face. Cal's expression was telling him that they could not let their guards down just yet. The way he was looking at Castle Leona told Valentino that there was still a lot to get done. Yes, the indomitable alliance had not given up yet. The war was still going on. Squeeze. Valentino subconsciously tightened the grip he had on Cal's hands. Weak human. Is the Crown Prince holding your hand too tightly? Why do you have such an expression on your face? Is it painful to just shake hands now, too? You are too weak. I am worried about you. I'll need to ask Goldie Gramps to find you some wonder drug. No, it isn't either of those. Cal just wanted to run away and leave both the young dragon and the Crown Prince behind. However, Cal's eyes soon became cloudy. His eyes turned away from the gates of the central tower. It then looked toward the gates of the northern tower. A person was coming out with the knights and mages behind him. It was the other sword master, the Magoru Empire's Duke Houghton. He was walking out with a happy expression on his face. Cal took a step closer to Crown Prince Valentino. He then paid close attention to make sure Duke Houghton would not be able to see his lips. "Your Highness, I have something I must tell you." "Of course, what is it? I am all ears if you have something to say." Valentino smiled brightly until he heard what Cal had to say next. "The dead mana bombs." "Do you know who made those bombs?" Cal made eye contact with the sword master, Duke Houghton. Cal motioned back with his eyes after seeing Duke Houghton smiling at him. However, his lips did not greet Duke Houghton. They were saying something else. "The enemy is sometimes smiling behind your back." Behind my back, Crown Prince Valentino suddenly felt chills run down his back. He heard a familiar voice at that moment. "Your Highness, Commander Cal." The Crown Prince slowly turned his head toward the source of the voice. He could see Duke Houghton approaching him with a smile on his face. Valentino turned his head back to see Cal, who was not smiling. "I will treat you to a delicious feast later. Whenever it is best for you, Your Highness, I will be waiting." Valentino looked toward Cal with a complicated expression. He could see the blood on the corner of Cal's lips. He could also see Cal's completely soaked uniform. "Then I will return to my territory now." The Crown Prince silently watched Cal walking toward the southern tower with his head down. Choi Han and Hilsman followed behind Cal while the two wyverns flew back up and headed toward the southern tower as well. "Commander, that was amazing. I've never seen something like that ever before." However, Cal ended up running into Duke Houghton. Duke Houghton threw away the seriousness of a sword master and seemed as if he could not hide his joy. The necromancer's strength was so thrilling. So was the sword master's power. "I was shocked at your shield as well. We all survived thanks to you. Thank you very much." The Duke did not care for following the noble hierarchy as he bowed toward Cal and showed his sincere thanks. Seeing both the Crown Prince and the Duke being so respectful to him seemed nice. However, Cal did not think that way. Why? But it looked like the enemy's purple orb was hit by some type of thunderbolt before it blew up. Was that also someone from your side? It was because Duke Houghton was scoping out their strength like this. Nice, my ass. It's just full of scheming. But Cal preferred dealing with someone like this over someone like Valentino. Cal's expression turned serious. "I'm not sure. I thought the Empire had done that. It wasn't you?" Huh, our empire, it wasn't us. Was there someone else there? Cal's expression turned serious. I'm not sure. I see. I guess I need to look into it. I thought that you had prepared that large thunderbolt with magic since you did not use your sword and just stood in the back leading the troops. Duke Houghton's expression turned odd. Is he complaining that I did not fight in the vanguard with my sword? However, Cal's expression seemed too serious for it to be that. Duke Houghton was about to respond when Cal continued to speak. To be honest with you, I am suspicious about the dead mana as well. How do you think the Indomitable Alliance turned dead mana into bombs? They are all nations focused on knights, so they should be lacking in magic and other skills like that. I must look into that as well. Duke Houghton and the Caro Kingdom's knights and mages around them all nodded their heads. That was the truth. It was definitely worth investigating. We cannot let any more people get hurt. That phrase made the knights clench their fists. However, Cal was looking at the silent Duke Houghton. Duke Houghton put on a smile again as he responded back. Yes, of course. Our empire will assist in the investigation as well. We need to figure out the origin of such dangerous items. I knew the hero of the empire would agree with me. Although the empire will soon go from the hero to the enemy of the continent, Cal said goodbye to the shameless Duke Houghton and ended the conversation. Then I will be on my way now. All right, our empire will put in more effort with the cleanup. Thank you very much. Clean up my ass. He already needed to observe them in order to check if they destroy anything that might be used as evidence against them. Of course, the dark elf Tasha was assigned to do that. Cal trusted her to do a good job as he headed back to the southern tower. The gate slowly opened as he arrived in front of it. The ones to open the gate were the Caro Kingdom's soldiers. They were the few soldiers who were stationed at the southern tower. The young soldier from before had his spear on his belt as he pushed the door open with both of his hands. The heavy gate slowly opened up. Screech, the young soldier, could see someone through the gap as the door opened. It was the commander, who was covered in blood and water. Behind him were the sword master and Vice Captain Hilsman, who both looked terrible as well. The young warrior pushed the door open with all of his strength as he watched them. He pushed so hard that his hands started to shake. However, all sorts of emotions about managing to survive and being able to open this door were mixed into those shaking hands. Screech, boom! The southern gate finally opened completely. The soldier watched as Cal entered the tower. There was nothing he had done here. However, just watching such a battle had made it difficult for him to breathe. But the people in front of him were the ones who had participated in that battle. The young soldier flinched as he made eye contact with Cal. He noticed Cal looking at his shaking hands and quickly hid them behind his back. He didn't know why he did that. The commander's voice echoed inside the southern tower at that moment. Let's share a drink since we all managed to survive. The young soldier remembered what Cal had said before the battle. Let's all survive together and go for drinks afterward. The soldier made eye contact with Cal once again. Of course, the ones who are not old enough will need to drink juice. Ah! The soldier started to smile. He then had an expression that even he himself would think was weird. It was one that was neither smiling nor frowning. However, the young soldier's hands were not shaking anymore. The soldier clenched his fists as he watched the back of the commander who was walking away. Woo-woo-woo-woo-woo-woo, yee-ee-ee-ee, he heard the cheering of the soldiers from the other towers. It was because the crown prince had announced the end of the battle. However, the southern tower was quiet. The people here who were feeling the joy of managing to survive were quiet on the outside. However, their hearts were beating faster than ever. On the other hand, Cal was not feeling the silence. It was loud inside his mind. Human? Are we eating steak? What are we going to eat? However, Cal enjoyed the ruckus in his mind for once as he rubbed his belly. He was planning to eat all of the delicious food in the Caro Kingdom. Although there were many things that he still needed to deal with, Cal started to smile. It was at that moment. Are you trying to sacrifice yourself? He heard it clearly even though it was loud in his mind. There was someone else speaking in his mind as well. Are you trying to sacrifice yourself? It was the Super Rock. Are you trying to sacrifice yourself? Are you trying to sacrifice yourself? Why is he like this? Did he break? Cal stopped walking. The super rock continuously asked if he was trying to sacrifice himself. Why is he like this? It's scary. Cal suddenly forgot about the steak and the wine. All he felt was chills down his body. Rayon started to speak into his mind at that moment. Human. We got a call from the Super Rock Villa. The Priestess Cage called. The crazy Priestess Cage? The Super Rock Villa, the crazy priestess who had been excommunicated from the Church of the God of Death. Why had she suddenly called? She should be resting in the Super Rock Villa with the half-saint, Jack, and the sword master, Hannah. Ah, it got disconnected. They left a message. The video communication soon ended. Rayon read the message that Cage had left on the device. Young Master Nim. The stone pillar in the underground plaza is shaking. I think it might break. Is it okay if this breaks? I'm ending the call and leaving a message since you are probably still in the middle of a battle. Give it your best. I am praying to the God of Death on your behalf. I've been saying I will convert to the Church of the Sun God if you got hurt. Please keep up the good work. It was a calm message that fit Cal's personality. However, Cal started to frown. The stone pillar in the Super Rock Villa. There was the entrance to the path that the Super Rock had sealed up. This was the same path that the monsters from the eastern continent used to come through. The stone pillar blocked the entrance to the path. Are you trying to sacrifice yourself, this stupid Super Rock? Cal heard Rayon's excited voice. Human, are we going home? Can we see everybody? I want to see everyone. Cal just closed his eyes. It was pitch black. All he could see was darkness. Chapter 224. Do not worry, 5. Vice Captain Hilsman, who had been following behind Cal, quietly walked up next to him when he noticed that Cal had stopped and closed his eyes. Choi, Han, and Mary just watched from the side. Hilsman then flinched after hearing what Cal was mumbling. Young Master Nim, are you dizzy by chance? No. Cal slowly opened his eyes. He then felt annoyed after seeing the way Hilsman was looking at him. Although Hilsman's face currently showed concern for Cal did not like it. Cal subconsciously let out his inner thoughts. Why is it so hard to live? I can't play, I can't even relax. He didn't know it would be so hard to be able to lay around in bed all day doing nothing. Cal shook his head and started to walk again. Hilsman watched all of this with a sad expression. Pat, someone patted him on the shoulder at that moment. Let's go. It was Choi Han. Hilsman turned around to look at Choi Han before flinching. Why, yes, let's go. We need to move quickly. The young Master Nim does everything quickly. Mary walked past Choi Han and Hilsman with her black robe dragging on the ground as she caught up to Cal. Hilsman had never seen Mary walk so fast before. Choi Han followed behind her as well, and Hilsman recalled Choi Han's expression one more time before feeling chilly again and starting to walk once again as well. Weak human, life is meant to be hard. I learned that when I was 2 years old. Of course, there will be more good days than bad days. I learned that when I was 4 years old. Weak human, let's eat all of the delicious food. That will make us happy. One Cal's mind was still filled with the ramblings of the Super Rock and the young dragon. Cal's plan to resolve the voice in his head was to contact the source of the problem. It's been a while, young Master Nim. He could see the crazy priestess Cage casually waving her hands. The Super Rock Villa. There was a video communication device that Rayon had created for the villa which only allowed them to contact Cal. He could also see the blonde twins behind Cage. The sword master Hannah, who survived being poisoned with dead mana, and the half-saint Jack. The two of them greeted Cal as well. Young Master Nim, I heard you did something amazing. You truly seem to be someone who follows the light of truth. St. Jack's innocent expression made Cage, Hannah, and Cal all be at a loss for words. Finally, Hannah interjected, you need to leave some for me. There's plenty for you. And when we go to the Empire, well, you already know, right? A smile appeared on the face that seemed to be filled with black spider webs. Yes, I'm training just for that moment. I'm going to dye the palace red with blood. Cal turned stoic. He didn't plan on dyeing the palace red, however. Hannah continued to say whatever she needed to say without waiting for his response. How's Mary? She's doing well. She seems happy to be able to see the dark elves again. Cal noticed Hannah pick her sword up and leave after hearing his response. She seemed to have nothing else to say. He heard Jack's voice again. Hannah is working hard every day in order to gain the strength to defeat the evil arm and save the Empire. She wants to help you, young Master Nim. Jack's perfectly innocent smile made Cal feel a bit guilty. However, he brushed it aside as he had something to do. Miss Cage, what is the status of the stone pillar? Cage started to frown. It started yesterday. She recalled what she noticed yesterday. I woke up feeling a bit off. It felt as if the god of death had dropped by. I decided to take a walk around the forest of darkness with Miss Hannah just in case. I thought that an enemy might have arrived. However, we did not find anybody. No monsters even approached them because Hannah had both her golden aura and black smoke coming from her body. That was why Cage had thought that it was just an odd dream. But it was the moment we entered the underground plaza. Bang! A loud noise had echoed from inside of the plaza. Cage ran toward the source of the noise in shock and managed to figure out the source. This exploded and made that loud noise. A piece of chain was on her palm. It was part of the many chains that were covering the stone pillar. A piece of the seal around it had exploded. The stone pillar started to be a bit weird after that. Cage continued to speak with an iffy expression. I thinking bouncing is a better word than shaking for what it is doing. Cal ended up with the same expression as Cage at that moment. Are there still chains around it? Yes. Approximately 1/5 of the chains are still there. I put a temporary seal on the broken areas with the power of the god of death. It sounds like I need to hurry back. Cage waved her hand in order to say that it was not needed. You don't need to hurry. It doesn't look like it will break anytime soon. If anything pops out of it, I'll use the power of the god of death, or Miss Hannah will use her aura to defend against them. Although I was excommunicated, I still seem to find it difficult to say the word, kill as a former priestess. Ha ha ha. Cage laughed out loud while Cal rubbed his eyes with his hands. I need to go back soon. He didn't know what those people would end up doing. The crazy priestess, the even crazier sword master Hannah, and the doofus of a half-saint. He just realized that this combination of people was terrible. They could go around destroying everything and healing each other in order to return without any injuries. I can't allow my villa to be destroyed. He couldn't lose one of the many things he needed for his peaceful slacker life. He could not just let the issue be, as there was a reason for him to head to the Eastern Continent. The Eastern Continent. He needed to go there in order to find the water of judgment. And then I can put on the crown. He was planning on controlling the crown that loves dragon blood once his body was balanced. Human, are we going home? Are we all meeting up at the Super Rock Villa? Cal stopped thinking about it after hearing Rayon's excited voice. Yes, we are all going to meet up there. Oh, young Master Nim, I brewed some alcohol with the fruits from the Forest of Darkness. I will reveal it when you all get here. Sure, that sounds good, Miss Cage. I was bored, so I made some cups out of wood as well. Yours is special as it has a silver shield on it. Look forward to it. Drinking alcohol in a silver shield cup, ah. I will contact you soon. Cal casually responded back to Cage, who was laughing, and Jack, who urged him to return quickly as he was the one who helped Cage brew the alcohol before ending the call. Agu, my head. Cal put both of his hands on his head. I need to contact Ruhaben Nim and that lunatic, Clope. At that moment, the bedroom door clicked open. Cal noticed Rayon did not turn invisible and started to speak. It was bound to be Choi Han, Mary, or Hilsman. What? Cal stopped moving. He turned his head. He could see Choi Han, who was bandaged up, as well as Mary, who was wearing her usual black robe. Squeak. The wheels started to roll as a large food cart entered into the bedroom. On the cart was a tray that was full of food and wine. Cal could hear Rayon gulping next to him. Choi Han noticed the gaze of the dragon as he started to speak. I thought you might be hungry. You are fabulous, Choi Han. You truly are smart and wonderful. Cal jumped up and moved the food to a table. Choi Han, Mary, and Rayon's magic helped him, making the table almost instantly full of food. Cal sat down and asked, What about Hilsman? He is with the soldiers telling people about the shield battle and discussing things with the Karo Kingdom's knights. Shield battle, discussing with the knights. Cal's expression turned odd. But he decided it sounded normal as Hilsman had become close with Tunka's Whipper Kingdom's soldiers as well. Furthermore, he was too hungry to think about it. He started to eat right away. The others started to eat as well, and soon the only noise in the room was the sound of Rayon's excitement. "Human, this is delicious. Have some? Mary, you should have some of this. Choi Han, you need to eat a lot in order to heal faster." Cal sighed while watching Rayon take a bite, and then passing all the delicious food off to the other people, as he handed new plates to Rayon one after another. It was the moment Rayon moved a piece of steak to someone else's dish, and Cal placed a new steak in front of him. Beep, beep, the video communication device at the center of the table was glowing red. It was an emergency call. Cal wanted to chuck the plate of steak after hearing the alarm, however, he put it down gently as it was delicious meat. He then started to think, is it the Breck Kingdom? Maybe Locke? Or the Roan Kingdom again? Cal sighed and turned his gaze to the video communication device as Rayon informed him of who was calling. It is Goldie Gramps. Iruhaben. The gold dragon was the one who was calling. Iruhaben had not responded when Cal left him a message last time. Cal wiped the sauce off of his mouth and gave the order. Connect it. Cal's expression stiffened up while thinking about why Iruhaben might be making an emergency call. Rayon immediately connected the call, and a man with white gold hair appeared on the screen. It's been a while. Iruhaben had the majestic air of a dragon, as usual. Iruhaben looked at Cal, Rayon, Mary, and Choi Han at the other side of the screen and started to smile. He then noticed the look in Cal's eyes. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Cal bluntly asked his question. "Do you have a son?" Cough. Choi Han choked while Mary gently put down the fork in her hand. At the same time, Rayon's round eyes were looking toward Cal. However, Cal was thinking about someone. The dragon half-blood with white gold hair. Dragons were said to each have their own unique colors. Cal did not know anything about the dragon half-blood, however. If they had a mix of dragon and human blood, wouldn't they follow the dragon's color as well? The only white gold dragon Cal knew about was Iruhaben. Cal's calm gaze headed toward Iruhaben, who was looking right back at him. Yes. I guess the chaos of war can make a human go crazy. I understand. Has it been that hard? You unlucky human, tusk. Iruhaben clicked his tongue as he looked toward Cal with a pitiful gaze. Rayon's paw that was covered in sauce patted the back of Cal's hand as well. Weak human, the white gold hair from earlier was from magic. Ah! Choi Han and Mary let out a gasp while Cal was at a loss for words. That was why Rayon explained the story of the dragon half-blood to Iruhaben instead. Iruhaben said just one word after listening to the story. Interesting. Cal looked back toward the ancient dragon. He would normally die. Excuse me? Cal asked in confusion as Iruhaben tilted his head and answered back. You know why dragons are an unmatched existence? It is because nobody else can handle them. Of course, the dragon slayers eat dragons. However, eating them and receiving the bloodline of a dragon are completely different things. Iruhaben had a serious expression that was also full of curiosity. Interesting. Usually, dragons and humans do not make children. The child is unable to handle the dragon's blood and thus dies after suffering for a bit. Even if dragons are shameless, they wouldn't go to that level. Dragons are rational creatures. Although they are violent and emotional on the outside, they are rational enough that even if they fell in love with a human, they would not get them pregnant. That was their natural instincts telling them it wouldn't work. But you are saying there is someone who managed to survive. Iruhaben's curiosity about the dragon half-blood only continued to grow. The fact that he was alive was shocking. The fact that he avoided the little kid and ran away should mean that he's at least gone through his first growth phase. Goldie. Dragon half-bloods go through growth phases as well. Of course, there is dragon blood inside of them. Ah, I see. Rayon seemed to be happy to see Iruhaben for the first time in a long time as he asked all sorts of questions in order to continue the conversation. However, Cal realized something odd. This made his expression slowly turn odd as well. He had not noticed because of Iruhaben's shockingly handsome face and his question about his son, however, he could see it properly now. Iruhaben Nim. What is it? One dragon was looking at Cal through the screen while another turned his head in order to look at him as well. Cal slowly continued to speak. The scenery behind you seems familiar. Ah, I am by your house. The Super Rock Villa? Yes, I'm in the Forest of Darkness. Did he find out about the stone pillar? Cal's expression turned serious. It was at that moment. My house was destroyed. That is why I came to see you and to stay here for a bit. Excuse me? The video communication device had been glowing red. Cal now understood the reason behind it. You know about the 10-Finger Mountains, right? It was the location of the elf village. Yes, I do. I have a bad feeling about this. I don't know why, but I have a really bad feeling about this. You protected their branch of the world tree. Correct. That was robbed a few days ago. Ah, Choi Han let out a gasp. I went to the elf village because of that, and my lair was destroyed when I got back. Ho ho, they think they can do whatever they want because I won't make it past another year. Was it done by arm? The elf village was definitely arm, but I can't be sure about my lair. I'll need to look. However, why did that word sound so scary to Cal? Cal started to get anxious. The reason for it was quickly revealed. Where in the Caro Kingdom are you right now? Cal hesitated to answer. Rayon happily answered at that moment. Castle Leona. The biggest room on the 3rd floor of the southern annex. Rayon followed up with the coordinates and the approximate location of the room. Cal tried to shut Rayon up, but Rayon was much faster. I see. Click. The call was suddenly ended. A weird noise then appeared inside of the room. Pat. A bright white gold light filled the bedroom. A voice could be heard as the light disappeared. It's been a while. It was Iruhaben. Goldie! Rayon flew over toward Iruhaben. However, Iruhaben flinched after seeing Cal's expression. Why do you have such an expression on your face? Iruhaben thought Cal might find it burdensome or annoying if he arrived, but expected Cal to deal with it. That was why he had prepared a present. However, the expression on Cal's face was different than he had expected. Rayon recognized Cal's expression as well. Human. Why are you smiling like that again? Cal ignored the 2 dragons as he looked at the other person who came with Iruhaben. It's been too long, Rayon Nim. You have become even more gloriously cute in the time we have not seen each other. This elf Pendrick has found another joy in life. Pendrick praised Rayon before looking toward Cal. Young Master Nim, it has been a while. Cal slowly reached his hand out toward Pendrick, the eternal dragon fanatic who was speaking properly again. Long time no see. Cal smiled brightly. Pendrick was an elf who could not handle elementals, but had healing abilities. He had died early in the novel, however. He was talented enough to play the role of healer in Choi Han's group for a while. His healing abilities that used the power of nature instead of divine power didn't seem that different from divine healing abilities at a quick glance. The Empire and the Church are a set. Cal did not forget about that. The moment he saw Pendrick, something clicked in his mind. Pendrick, I am so happy to see you. Is that so? I am so happy to see you welcome me like this after our short time together. Of course. Shall we do something good together? Excuse me. Cal planned to destroy the Empire and the Church from the bottom up. He needed to do that in order to fill them with his own people so that he could restructure the entire place. You are just a believer of the sun god starting today. Excuse me? Pendrick looked toward the 2 dragons in confusion. Iruhaben took a step back while Rayon flapped his wings while saying that it was a good thing. In the end, Pendrick had no choice but to look back at Cal. You happened to develop the power to heal people along the way. You developed those powers through a pure and just person. That person was a pioneer of sorts. The person he was talking about was naturally the half-saint Jack. Pendrick, Cal asked with a bright smile. I'll be providing your lodging for a while. Don't you think you should pay me back somehow? Pay me back. That phrase made Pendrick flinch. 1. This is adorable and sad. Chapter 225, Do Not Worry 6. Iruhaben flinched as well. Pay you back. He looked around at the other people in confusion. Choi Han nodded his head with a nostalgic look. You are correct. He definitely does need to pay for his meals. Mary nodded her head as well while Rayon shouted with joy while floating next to Iruhaben. You're right. You must pay for your meals. There is no such thing as a free meal in this world. I've also paid for my meals and received 20 silvers as my allowance. Iruhaben's expression continued to get worse. He then heard Cal speaking to Pendrick again. I heard elves are not materialistic. You won't ask for a reward for doing a good deed, right? He was speaking in a gentle tone. It was not a wrong statement either. Cal recalled how the elf village tried to use him and thought about how he could use Pendrick and the other elves. He then calmly addressed the silent Pendrick. Pendrick, don't you agree? I do. Good. Pendrick blankly watched Cal, who patted him on the shoulder with a bright smile. He was wondering what mess he got himself into as soon as he got here. Cal handed him a pristine white priest robe at that moment. It was the same one that the group had worn when they were pretending to be priests with St. Jack in the past. All right, go to work. Work hard. Cal gave the order with a gentle voice while Iruhaben let out a fake cough and stepped backward. Pendrick continued to watch blankly before taking the robe from Cal. 1 hour later, a priest that Cal brought with him started to let out a holy white light from underneath the southern castle wall. The Battle of Castle Leona. The thing that came at the end of that battle was yet another battle. Egu, my back. I guess it's time for me to quit being a soldier. You've done it for a long time if you've been a soldier for 15 years. I thought you were going to take your pension and open a restaurant. That's the plan. The soldier who had been a soldier since he was 20 patted his back as he sat down on the pile of rocks. A young soldier next to him looked around Castle Leona before starting to speak. I finally understand what they mean when they say that behind a war is another war. Castle Leona and the shores in front of it. Many people were currently moving around busy at work. They were working to restore the area to how it was prior to the battle. The young soldier and the veteran were two of the people assigned to restore the castle wall. I thought we would get to rest and relax for a few days since the battle was over. The veteran snorted after hearing the young soldier's comment. You little punk. We haven't even purified all of the dead mana. At least they are feeding us well. I guess that is true. The Caro Kingdom had been providing sumptuous feasts for the soldiers after achieving victory. They even provided a cup of alcohol the day of the victory. The veteran started to speak to the young soldier, who seemed to be disappointed that reality was different than what he had imagined. It is because His Highness is a just person. We need to do this in order to defend against any future attacks, and for us to be able to return to our normal lives once the war is over. He pointed to the central tower with his chin as he continued to speak. Even the high-ranking people are not resting right now. He started to frown. There are also people who cannot move because they are injured. How can we rest and relax right now? The Commander Nim is currently recovering, isn't he? Yes, that is what they said. The young soldier started to frown as well. Who were they talking about? It was not someone from the Caro Kingdom. Cal Henetus, commander of the Rhone Kingdom's northeast region. That was whom they were talking about. It was said that Cal Henetus had used his large shield as he had done in the Rhone Kingdom and was currently recovering from the damage to his body. And the people from the Rhone Kingdom are the busiest right now. So how can we slack off when it is our territory? The veteran's gaze headed down to the shores. He looked toward the dark elves that he was told were scary and terrible in the past. Those dark elves were currently using their elementals in order to gather the remaining dead mana. They were working so hard, not resting day or night in order to purify the dead mana just a little quicker. Watching them made the veteran feel guilty. What he didn't know was that the dark elves were extremely happy to gather up all of this dead mana. They had never seen such a large pile of precious dead mana before. Hey, gather all of it and don't leave even a single drop behind. This is all precious medicine, wonder drugs. Tasha whispered so that only the dark elves could hear as she urged them to move quickly. However, there was no need to do that. We already know that, boss. Don't talk to us right now. We need to focus on not wasting a single drop. The dark elves were already working hard with smiles on their faces in order to not waste even a single drop of the dead mana. The shores were quickly being purified thanks to their efforts. The large amount of dead mana made it so the dark elves could not stop smiling. The soldiers who did not know about this were touched by the dark elves being hard at work, as they focused their gazes at the southern tower. They then turned to look at the gates of the southern tower. The Roan Kingdom's people were visible through the open gate. I am amazed every time I see that light. Me too. A white light was coming out from the other side of the gate. The person who was touched by that holy white light jumped up and bowed to someone. "Thank you very much." It was nothing. The handsome man's gentle smile seemed holy as well. They said that he is a priest Nim that the Commander Nim called over? Yes, he said he brought him over because he thought we needed someone to heal the regular soldiers. Although the priest had a scar by his eyes, rather than looking scary, the weak-looking man was working hard to heal the Karo Kingdom's soldiers. The necromancer was helping him with miscellaneous tasks. The handsome priest touched the corners of his twitching lips as he whispered to Mary before the next patient arrived. "Miss Mary, when will I be able to take a break?" "I'm not sure." Pendrick was currently using Tasha's magic device in order to make himself look human. He looked toward Mary with desperation, but she was stern. The young Master Nim said, "Do whatever you think is fitting to pay for your meals. I am happy to be able to do some good." Mary was just stating the truth and her own feelings, however. Pendrick heard her mechanical voice differently. "Are you really thinking about how much work you are doing when you are doing something good?" Although that was not Mary's intentions, Pendrick's face turned even paler. He felt that Mary's mechanical voice was cold. "Hey, Elfie, let's work. Helping people is fun. Let's save everybody together." Inside his head was Rayon's endless ramblings that seemed to brainwash him. Rayon was next to the two of them while remaining invisible as Cal had told him to protect them. Of course, Rayon only agreed to this because Choi Han and Iruhaben were serving as Cal's guard knights. Ha 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 ha. Pendrick put a smile back on his face as he greeted the next patient. However, the problem was that he looked like a priest who was happy to see a healed patient. A soldier who had no way of knowing this looked toward him with admiration. He then thought about someone else. "A Roan Kingdom's priest Nim is here helping us, but the bishop ran away." "Heh, did you see him running away? I saw their asses as they ran away from the light arrows. So much for people who claim to serve the light." A soldier shook his head in disbelief. "And that's not all. They crept back out after the battle and claimed that they would heal people, but they were only willing to heal the knights or people of higher ranking. All they did for the regular soldiers was throw over a roll of bandages." "Exactly. They even only handed over the bandages because His Highness strongly argued for it." One of the soldiers stabbed his shovel into the ground in anger. "They were really fast when they were taking our donations, but they ran away even faster. Dirty bastards. Bad, be reasonable. The believers will be angry at you if they hear you." The soldier became even angrier after hearing his friend's remark. "I am one of those believers." The reason he was angry was because he was one of the believers of the Sun God. "I volunteered to be a soldier because I trusted the word of our God. The Sun God told me to do it. He said I should step up and be the light as darkness approaches us. That was the reason I joined the army and the reason my parents were so proud of me." His friend could not say anything to calm the huffing soldier. All he could do was pat the soldier who lowered his head on the shoulder. "Cheer up. The Sun God is shining light on this land because there are people like you. You seem to know exactly what to say even though you don't believe in a god. This much is nothing." The soldier chuckled and raised his head back up after hearing his friend's remark. He could still see the priest healing more soldiers. "Which church is that priest Nim a part of?" "Ah. Haven't you heard?" "About what?" The soldier looked toward his friend in confusion. His friend quickly shared the information that had been going around. A lot of people have asked him which church he was a part of. He just silently raised his hand and... His friend pointed up with his finger. He just pointed at the sky and smiled without saying anything. "The sky," he lifted his head up to the sky. He could see the blue sky and the sun. Yes, the sun. The bright sun made it difficult to keep looking up. Whatever. He shook his head, however. He still peeked toward the priest who was giving off a light that was as bright as the sun. The priest's smile seemed to flow very naturally with the bright light. "Ah," he apparently said something else with it. What did he say? He suppressed his beating heart as he looked toward his friend who answered back. He said, The revered being says that light shines in the darkness and does not shrink even if you share it. A light that brightens the darkness will soon arrive in the world. I am just sharing the light with people as I wait for that moment. The soldier's expression turned odd after hearing his friend's response. He recalled the teachings of the Church of the Sun God. The soldier felt his heart beating wildly. His friend then patted him on the shoulder. There. Let's just get back to work. Sure. His friend went back to work while the soldier picked up his shovel and lifted his head up. He could see the central tower beyond the wall. The sun was currently visible above the top of the tower. The sun. The soldier thought about the sun god as he started to shovel once again. He could feel the sun shining down on him. On the other hand, there was an area that was still cold even with the sun shining down on it. The table inside was full of delicious food. Such a feast was only possible due to the end of the battle, however. It also symbolized that this meeting was important. However, something was off with Valentino, the Caro Kingdom's crown prince. He could not say anything even with this feast in front of him. The soup in front of him was already cold as well. Valentino did not pay any attention to the soup as he looked toward someone. He was looking at Cal Henitus, who was sitting across from him. Cal seemed to have no problem continuing to eat. Even the guard knights were outside of the room, so only the two of them were at the table. Cal was giving off a very noble-like vibe as he continued to eat. However, Valentino's hands were shaking to the point that he could not hold a spoon or a fork steady. The only thing that he could grab with his shaking hands was the knife next to the fork. A knife. That was the focus of Valentino's gaze right now. So, what you are telling me? Valentino was speaking in a choppy manner. He looked again at the documents next to his soup bowl. The dead monobombs were created by the Empire? Cal continued to eat without responding back. Valentino did not take offense as he continued to speak. The Empire and the Indomitable Alliance are on the same side. Valentino slowly started to frown. But the Empire still sent soldiers to us. And Aden, that bastard, came to cheer me on as well. Aden, the Magoru Empire's imperial prince. Cal raised his head the moment Aden was mentioned. He made eye contact with Valentino as he responded back. Please eat. You need to be full in order to fight. He then lowered his head back and continued to eat. Valentino could not say anything while looking at Cal. At first, he had wanted to say that Cal and the Rhone Kingdom were lying. The documents they provided were difficult to believe at first, and he wanted to tell them not to destroy the good relationship between the Empire and the Caro Kingdom. The Rhone Kingdom was not very close to the Caro Kingdom. He could not blindly trust the words of such a kingdom. However, Valentino did not say anything without thinking through it first, and after a while he started to lean in one direction. The Rhone Kingdom was the kingdom in the most similar situation as the Caro Kingdom. He could also see Cal's pale face. Valentino turned his head. He could see the dark elves and the Rhone Kingdom's people down by the shores. They were helping out with the cleanup, and he had also heard about how a priest and the necromancer were healing the common soldiers. Furthermore, Cal and his sword master had fought a fierce battle where they almost died. Although he had not managed to ask Cal about the fiery thunderbolt yet, he was fully aware of Cal's shield. Such a strong person had protected Castle Leona while getting injured in the process. Valentino slowly picked up his spoon. He then opened his mouth in order to speak. Yes, we must be full in order to fight back. Cal raised his head and Valentino's gaze headed toward the knife. We need to be full in order to raise up our blades. Click. However, Valentino soon put the spoon back down. He then picked up the whole bowl of soup and started to drink it. It was a completely classless act. Clack, the empty bowl was placed on the table as Valentino looked toward Cal and continued to speak. You can eat anything when you are hungry. You also become desperate. Valentino was hungry, information, power, a sense of unfairness, anger, and betrayal. All of these things were making him hungry. He needed to fill his empty stomach. Commander Cal, I wish to speak in secret with Crown Prince Alberu. Of course. Cal picked up his knife and cut a piece of steak as he responded back. He will fill your empty stomach, Your Highness. Valentino looked toward the steak on Cal's plate that was getting cut into pieces as he gulped. He then made eye contact with Cal once again. Both of them started to smile. One side was thinking about revenge, while the other was thinking about blowing up the empire and the church as a set. The two people who were having different thoughts were both smiling brightly. Chapter 226. Do not worry 7. The day for Cal's departure arrived. Of course, not everyone from the Rhone Kingdom was leaving. However, Cal, as well as a portion of the mages, the knights, and dark elves, were all leaving today. Most of the Empire's forces were leaving as well. Commander. Grab. Cal barely managed to smile at Crown Prince Valentino, who grabbed his hands again. I will see you next time, Your Highness. Yes, yes. Valentino smiled gently toward Cal with a sad expression before erasing all emotions from his face and turning to look at someone else with just a smile on his face. Thank you for all of your help, Duke Houghton. No, Your Highness. The Maguru Kingdom and Caro Kingdom's friendship is known by everyone. Friendship, my ass. Cal snorted internally at Duke Houghton's words while admiring Valentino's poker face. He's good at acting. Cal recalled what Alberu had told him when they chatted last night. Valentino. He's quite humane. Honestly speaking, he is a pretty good person. Valentino was someone who would show anger when he was angry and sorrow when he was sad. He was someone who cherished the citizens of his kingdom while knowing how to use fear and anger as he needed. That was the evaluation Alberu had of Valentino. But the Caro Kingdom is the land of casinos and auctions. He is someone who rose to the position of crown prince in such a kingdom. However, emotions and rationality were extremely different. He calculates things faster than anybody I know. That is why he won't let go of us until the end of the war, regardless of whether he trusts what we have to say or not. Also, Alberu looked toward Cal with an odd expression. He seems to admire the Rhone Kingdom quite a bit. Your Highness, did he explain his admiration with a straight face? Alberu and Cal looked toward each other and chuckled. His style doesn't suit me. Me neither. They had agreed for the first time in a while. Cal recalled that conversation as Duke Houghton approached him. The Crown Prince was thanking each of the Empire and Rhone Kingdom's leaders and saying goodbye to each of them one by one. Duke Houghton took that time to approach Cal. I hope to see you again in the future. I wish for the same, Duke Nim. Absolutely. Cal absolutely wanted to see him again in the future. Good. I have never seen anybody with such a strong shield in my life. It is an honor to know someone with such profound strength. It is embarrassing to hear that from a sword master like you, Duke Nim. The two were chatting jovially. Duke Houghton shook his head. No, I reflected a lot after seeing you in the Rhone Kingdom. Duke Houghton had a sincere smile on his face. He then looked at the people around Cal. This is how you should grow your strength. Grow extremely strong while remaining quiet. Duke Houghton did not say that part out loud. His gaze then headed back toward Cal. The red thunderbolt. He still had not figured out the identity of that power. It was strong enough to destroy Arm's magic circle. Who could that power belong to? It did not belong to the Empire, Arm, nor the Indomitable Alliance. Then it had to be someone from the Rhone Kingdom, and the person in front of him was the center of the Rhone Kingdom's forces. Ha, Duke Nim. It will be a useless power once the war is over. Duke Houghton jokingly started to shake while looking at Cal. I'm scared of the Rhone Kingdom. What is there to be scared about? The Rhone Kingdom and the Empire are on friendly terms with each other. I have the symbol of that friendship on me. Cal pointed to the medal that was inside his jacket. It was the Maguru Empire's Medal of Honor. He looked extremely proud of this medal as he moved his gaze back to Duke Houghton. Duke Houghton smiled back. Cal Henitus. He was someone at the center of the Rhone Kingdom's strength as well as the string that tied the Empire and the Rhone Kingdom together. They just needed to slowly conduct their investigation of the Rhone Kingdom. They could do it while gently dealing with Cal Henitus. Of course. I am extremely happy to see the Maguru Empire's medal on you. I must be going now. See you next time. Of course, Duke Nim. We must meet again. Cal looked as if he really wanted to visit the Empire again as he said the word. Must. Duke Houghton hid his relief and sneer as he walked into area for the teleportation magic circle. Cal quietly watched him leave. Weak human, Aren't we heading to the Empire in order to destroy everything next time? Cal naturally ignored Rayon's question. He then touched the corners of his lips. He had a natural smile on his face. His smile was not forced, as he was speaking the truth. He would definitely return to the Magaru Empire. Human? What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about destroying things? Cal ignored this as well before stepping onto the teleportation magic circle. Choi Han, Mary, Tasha, and Hilsman. He could see all of their faces. Cal closed his eyes as the teleportation magic circle started to vibrate as the others stood there with unexplainable expressions on their faces. He then opened his eyes. He had already returned to the Roan Kingdom. Hyung Nim. Orabuni, the Roan Kingdom's front lines of the northeast region. The Hennetus territory. This was where he had returned when he opened his eyes. He had returned home alone. His family was present to greet him. I am back. Human, I am back as well. We are back at House #1. Rayon was naturally with him. Count Daruth approached Cal, who was stepping off the teleportation magic circle. He looked at his son's face and body before patting him on the shoulder. Welcome back. He did not say anything else. It was the same for Countess Violin. She nodded her head when Cal bowed toward her and then turned around. I had them prepare all of your favorite foods, so let's go eat. She then started to walk toward the dining room first. Count Daruth left with her. Cal felt relaxed as he started to walk as well. His siblings, Basin and Lily, approached him as he did that. Hyung Nim. I did not manage to buy any souvenirs. Cal answered back before motioning with his chin that they should hurry. Basin hesitated for a moment after seeing Cal's action before starting to speak. I heard that there will be a large celebration parade for the Roan Kingdom's people who managed to achieve an overwhelming victory in the Karo Kingdom. Why did you return here alone? Everyone other than Cal were heading from the Karo Kingdom to the Roan Kingdom's capital. The Roan Kingdom's side had prepared a welcome-back parade for them. Basin thought that his brother was the one who deserved to be there the most. However, his brother had declined that spot and returned home alone. His parents did not ask about it. However, Basin and Lily were both curious. They wanted to know why Cal was avoiding such a glorious position. It was because Cal was a source of pride for them. Basin could see Cal frowning as if what he had said did not make any sense. Something like that does not suit me. It is fine as long as we won. I do not need anything else. He would have to deal with the terrible sight of people waving shields at him if he went to the parade. Cal was relieved that he could escape on his own. Even without him present, Choi Han, Mary, and Tasha would be the focus of everyone's attention. That was his goal. Furthermore, he was not worried about not being in the procession. Hilsman, Tasha, and His Highness will take care of it. The combination of Vice Captain Hilsman, the dark elf Tasha, who was knowledgeable about the kingdom's politics, and the crown prince who was good at taking care of business, was reliable. He didn't even have to worry about the terrible actor, Choi Han, nor the innocently good Mary with the three of them around. Choi Han and Mary agreed as well. He had expected the two of them to retort back, however, both of them, especially Choi Han, seemed to be listening carefully to everything he told them. Ah, Choi Han, just ignore the nobles even if they talk to you. His Highness will take care of everything, I understand. Please do not worry. Cal saw the innocent smile on Choi Han's face and moved on. He had heard Rayon's voice at that moment. Choi Han, why are you smiling like that? Why is he saying that to Choi Han? Cal turned his head back after hearing Rayon say the words that were usually reserved for when he was about to scam someone. He could still see Choi Han with the same innocent smile. He could also see Mary, who was standing there with her fists clenched. Ha ha ha. Do not worry, young Master Nim. Mr. Choi Han and our Mary will do a good job. The two of them are stronger than you think. But I know that they are strong. Ha 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 ha. Cal started to frown because he did not understand why Tasha was laughing so loudly. He then patted the final troublemaker, Hilsman, on the shoulder before giving him a warning. As for you, don't bring up that nonsense about young Master Silver Shield or what not. Ha 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 ha. I understand. Young Master Nim, Cal recalled Hilsman's loud laughter as he started to walk. He then mumbled to himself. Being at home is the most peaceful. He always had to do so much work whenever he left the house. His siblings who heard Cal's comment looked at each other but kept their mouths shut. Their older brother's large back felt quite small today. Cal had no idea about any of this as he focused on the food in front of him. However, he needed to respond to Countess Violan's questions every so often. Cal, did the Caro Kingdom feed you properly? Yes, they did. Cal, have you been sleeping well? Well, I usually sleep well. I see. Cal, has anybody looked down on you for not having a title? Not for that reason, but the Church of the Sun God's bishop did look down on me. I see. Cal honestly responded to the questions before taking another bite of the juicy sausage made by the Hennetus family chef and starting to smile. On the other hand, Count Daruth looked at the cold gaze in his wife's eyes before looking at his son, who was happy because of a simple sausage and filling his bitter stomach with cold water. It's our house. It's been so long. Rayon rushed past Cal in excitement and headed down to the underground plaza with the Super Rock Villa. Tusk, the little kid has only improved his physical strength. Iruhaben clicked his tongue as he leisurely walked next to Cal. They were at the Super Rock Villa underneath the Forest of Darkness. Cal, who had returned here for the first time in a long time, looked toward the Holy Twins and the crazy priestess who were chatting with Rayon as he peeked toward Iruhaben. What is it? The ancient dragon felt Cal's gaze and asked. Arm's dragon half-blood that we met mistook me for a dragon half-blood as well. How could he mistake him for something so preposterous? Cal was shocked at the bastard's extremely wacky thought and felt iffy about why someone would think that way. That was why he had shared this fact with Iruhaben and managed to see his reaction. You, he seemed to be holding back his laughter. Cal started to get a bad feeling as he stared at the ancient dragon who was trying very hard to hold back his laughter. Iruhaben then walked in front of Cal before casually answering back. How can you be a dragon half-blood when you have that item with you? That item. Hearing that made Cal flinch. There was a crown in Cal's spatial pocket bag that was inside his inner pocket. It was the crown that was said to like dragon blood. He then heard Iruhaben's quiet chuckles. You really are extremely unlucky. You always bring back such useless things. Cal was at a loss for words. He was amazed at the same time. There was a reason that an ancient dragon was an ancient dragon. He was amazed that Iruhaben could feel the aura of the crown that Rayon could not feel. That was why he was relieved when standing in front of the shaking stone pillar. The crazy priestess Cage, whom he had not seen in a long time, started to speak in a calm voice. About 2/5 of the chains are broken. 1, it looks like you used the power of the god of death to hold it down. He should at least do this much. Cal turned his gaze away from Cage, who seemed to make light of the situation, and looked back at the stone pillar. It was the path that the Super Rock was said to have sealed. It was supposed to last 100,000 years. I knew he sounded a bit crazy, but it looks like I can't trust him. 100,000 years, my ass. It looked ready to break at any moment. Screech, screech. The chains were still moving, and the stone pillar looked ready to fall over. He could take a peek at the path underneath each time the stone pillar jumped up. It was an oddly purple color. It didn't look like somewhere Cal would want to venture down. Cal turned his head and looked toward Iruhaben, who started to speak. It looks like the other side was broken. This is reacting to it. The other side, the eastern continent? Yes, someone must be messing with it on the eastern continent's side. Cal's expression became darker. Who was touching this stone pillar? Anybody with enough strength would not touch the seal on this stone pillar. Is it arm? Cal asked the great ancient dragon, who was aware of even the crown in his position. Iruhaben Nim, then what should we do? Iruhaben responded right back as if there was nothing to debate. What can you do? Just don't worry about it. His face seemed very reliable as he told Cal not to worry. Cal thought that he could see the wisdom of the aged dragon. Cal was waiting for Iruhaben's response when Iruhaben smiled gently and sternly responded back. We can just destroy it first. Oh, Goldie, let's destroy it. That feeling of Iruhaben being reliable quickly disappeared from Cal's mind. 1. Author originally said 1/5 was remaining, but now only 2/5 is broken, so I am going to assume he meant 1/5 was broken earlier. Chapter 227, but it's more comfortable here. 1. However, Cal had one last hope as he turned back toward the stone pillar. He could see the large stone pillar, as well as the dark red magic circle on the ground around it. There were also the chains that were breaking apart. The chains? Cal looked back toward Eruhaben, who started to smile. No, the stone pillar. What a reckless ancient dragon. Yes, Goldie, let's destroy it all. Do dragons just like destroying things? Cal looked at Rayon, who was flapping his wings. The amused, crazy priestess Cage. The sword master Hannah, who kept clenching and unclenching her fist as if she was itchy. And the concerned Saint Jack, as he sighed and started to speak. I'm the only normal one here. Eruhaben Nim. What if that leads to monsters coming over from the other side? The Forest of Darkness had a lot of mutant monsters. When he researched into it, the mutants were the result of the Eastern Continent's monsters that had come to the Western Continent using this path. The Super Rock had built a villa in this underground plaza as well as the stone pillar to seal the path. That was why it was possible that monsters would cross over again if they broke the seal, and my house will be destroyed. This was the reason Cal was serious. Cal Henatus. Eruhaben had a serious expression on his face. He then pointed to himself with his finger. I am a dragon. The one who made this seal was just human. Although it was a unique and strong seal even in Eruhaben's eyes, it was just something that a human had made. I just need to seal it once again. It's not that hard. Cal quietly observed the ancient dragon with white gold hair that was smiling in a relaxed manner. Rayon slowly approached them. Human, I will be able to do it soon too. I will be able to do it next time if I watch the gold dragon do it this time. I am very good at learning. Saint Jack started to speak as well. Dear Lord, dragons truly are great and mighty. Cal pointed to the stone pillar as the two dragons looked at him. Let's destroy it then. Sure, destroy it. Let's destroy them all. Cal looked toward the stone pillar that would soon be destroyed. However, the ancient dragon's response was different than what Cal had expected. Sure. Eruhaben gave a short response before waving his hand in the air. PSSSSSSSSSSS, a gray powder slowly floated up into the air. The large stone pillar was slowly disintegrating into dust. Cal felt chills as he watched it disappear without making a sound. Screech, screech, ugh. The crazy priestess Cage covered her ears with her hands. Hannah was already covering her brother Jack's ears as well. Screech, 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 the screeching of metal echoed in the plaza. The source of that noise was not the stone pillar, the talismans surrounding the pillar, nor even the chains. It was coming from the dark red magic circle on the ground. This magic circle gave off quite an ominous feeling. The magic circle was screeching as it started to warp. It's because the seal was broken. It will disappear soon. The noise disappeared soon, just as Eruhaben indicated. The talismans and chains were floating in the air as the stone pillar disintegrated into nothing. Cal subconsciously took a step back. He had no choice. His body felt weird. His entire body felt as if it was pounding. Are you trying to sacrifice yourself? Looks like I have to eat something again. The voices of the Super Rock and the Glutton Priestess echoed in his mind. Boom, boom, boom. His heart started to beat wildly as well. The vitality of the heart suddenly activated. At the same time, the fire of destruction and the sound of the wind started to appear by his hands and feet. Cal realized the reason for it. Pat, pat. Eruhaben's hand and Rayon's paw landed on Cal's shoulders. Weak human, what is going on? Little kid, do you really need to ask? It is because of that path. Rayon's round eyes headed toward the path that was glowing purple. An extremely wide path that resembled a cave appeared on the ground. Is it because of the eerie aura coming from there? Human, you are too weak. Even the saint over there is fine. Tusk, tusk. Eruhaben removed the loud dragon child from Cal and proceeded to pat Cal on the shoulder. Cal felt himself calming down as Eruhaben did that. The vitality of the heart and all of the other powers slowly calmed down as well. Cal Henatus, that path is an incomplete path. That must be why incomplete existences react sensitively to it. The ancient dragon and Cal made eye contact. The ancient power of water attribute that you own. That is something you possess, but not something that is inside your body, right? Your body is incomplete because of that. Iruhaben had used a water attribute magic to surround Cal as he patted him on the shoulder, the water of judgment, the ancient power that he had yet to find brushed across Cal's mind. He also thought about the crown he would use afterward. I am okay now. Iruhaben put his hand down after hearing Cal's response and slowly started to walk toward the path. Cal followed behind him. Iruhaben made a noise as he looked inside the path. Ho! It was a gasp. What is it? Cal could not finish his sentence as he too was at a loss for words as he looked inside the path. Appa, don't look inside. This, terrible. The fake holy maiden tried to quickly shield her brother Jack, but he had already looked inside. Even the crazy priestess cage could not stop frowning after looking inside. What was inside the large path that was shining purple? The light from the plaza was letting them see inside the path. The gold dragon's eyes slightly lowered. It looks like there was a war. There were numerous skeletons filling up the path. There were so many skeletons that it filled up the large cave's walls. The entire cave, other than a small path that was only wide enough for one person to go through, was filled with skeletons. These skeletons had somehow not rotted over time. There were skeletons of all sizes inside the cave. Some of the larger ones were as tall as Cal. Although he had no way of knowing what creatures these bones belonged to, he could at least tell that they were huge. However, the experts, Iruhaben, the sword master Hannah, and Rayon all realized something. The ancient dragon's voice echoed in the area. A single person killed them all. A single person. A single human had done this. The path was so deep that they couldn't see the end from the entrance. The ancient dragon had realized that a single person had filled this entire path with bones. It could not be helped. Iruhaben turned his head to look at Cal. You ate this power, right? Cal could not say anything. He was busy looking at the numerous skeletons. He could also the weapons that had killed them. Large spears. Large spears made of rock numbering in the hundreds, no, thousands, had pierced through the bones and stabbed the monsters against the cave walls. All that was left in the middle of the spears was enough room for one person to walk by. Cal thought about that person, the scary giant cobblestone. He still did not know anything about that power. This was because Cal did not want to sacrifice himself. He had not ever responded to the Super Rock's question. However, he had seen a portion of that power today. He seems to have been an average-sized person. That was what Iruhaben had observed based on the sight inside of the cave. There was only enough room for an average human adult in between the bones and the stone spears. He seems to have been pretty strong. He probably awakened his abilities after being involved in one too many wars. Iruhaben looked around the cave before suddenly asking a question. But how did he go in? I was wondering that as well. Cal agreed with Iruhaben, but he could feel something. It was almost like an intuition. Humans cannot go through this path. The Super Rock had explained to Cal when he had first arrived at the villa. Humans were kicked out. It was the same for elves and dwarves. Only monsters seemed to be able to go through. My friends and I were unable to solve the mystery of this path. However, we sealed the path from the east to the west in order to prevent even stronger mutant monsters from coming through, and I guarded the western entrance. The Super Rock had said that only monsters could enter this path. So then, was the owner of these stone spears not the Super Rock? No, it's definitely the Super Rock. Cal's intuition was telling him that this was the case. It was telling him that these stone spears were the Super Rock's power. I can't understand it at all. Indeed. Cal had been agreeing with Iruhaben since earlier. Indeed, that was the only thing he could say right now. That was why he was just repeating himself over and over. Then I should go inside. Indeed, excuse me? Cal looked toward Iruhaben. But only monsters can go inside. But I'm a dragon. Cal could not say anything about it. But I can't go. Rayon chimed in, and Iruhaben responded back. I am the closest to perfection in this world. Little kid, you haven't even gone through your first growth phase yet. I have nothing to say. Rayon admitted defeat as Iruhaben chuckled and said something to Cal before entering into the path. I'll go figure out where in the eastern continent this leads to. However, Cal stopped him before he could go. Iruhaben Nim? What is it? Why don't we create a teleportation magic circle by that entrance? Why? Cal happily answered Iruhaben's obvious question. So that I can go. The water of judgment and arms forces. He needed to go to the eastern continent in order to find some information about them. The problem was that there was nothing Cal knew about the eastern continent. The parts of the novel that Kim Rock-Soo had read did not discuss much about the eastern continent. All right, I understand. Just wait. Iruhaben then walked into the path. Cal just sat down on the ground. He wasn't worried about the ancient dragon, but he knew that Rayon would not leave. Human, I will wait here. Yes, yes. Cal just laid down on the ground. His house really was the best. It felt extremely relaxing to lay down on his front yard. St. Jack and the crazy priestess Cage left a basket of food for them before leaving. A few days later, Iruhaben came back with an expression that seemed to be saying that he saw a lot of odd things. Iruhaben Nim, why do you have such a strange expression on your face? They were currently in the plaza, however. Cal was sitting on a comfortable couch while eating fruit. Iruhaben then looked at Rayon, who was patting his full stomach and studying a language book for the eastern continent as he responded back. Poor me. Cal was able to figure out what Iruhaben was thinking based on their conversation. That was why he had jumped onto the teleportation magic circle, knowing Iruhaben didn't really mean it. The group that was going to head to the eastern continent all gathered around him. It's been a while since we last traveled. This is my first time going to the eastern continent. Just trust me, the great and mighty Rayon Meru has memorized all of the eastern continent's languages. Our youngest is really smart. The children, averaging 9 years old, chatted amongst themselves as they roamed around Cal. However, Cal was not looking at the children as his gaze was focused on some other people. It made sense for Iruhaben to go, however. He was not too happy about the others that were going. The eastern continent. They needed someone who knew a lot about the eastern continent to go with them. That was why Ron and Beacrox were coming with them. Ron should have a good idea about the layout of the eastern continent. He then needed some muscles since Choi Han was not here. Iruhaben was difficult to boss around. That was why another sword master was going with him. Hannah, be careful out there. Appa, I got it. Use the video communication device if there is an emergency. I'll come back right away to kill them all. Haha, you always worry about me too much. Why would you kill people? Don't worry. Cal frowned after hearing the sword master Hannah's vicious comment. The two of them made eye contact at that moment, and Hannah smiled at him. Thank you. I've been itchy for a few days. What was itchy? Cal wanted to ask that, but decided not to do so. He then motioned to Iruhaben, who silently activated the magic circle. It was an extra-large magic circle in order to be able to teleport across continents. Furthermore, there was also a language magic placed on it in order to allow them to use the eastern continent's common language. It was a complicated spell, even for an ancient dragon. The magic circle started to ripple. Have a safe trip. Come back soon. Cal let the magic circle control his body as Cage and Jack bid farewell. It will probably be late at night once we arrive. Cal heeded Iruhaben's words as he closed his eyes. He was standing on top of a mountain when he opened his eyes. The sun is coming up. Cal could see it as well. It was just about to become morning. The early risers were probably already up and heading to work. Cal slowly turned around. He could see the large stone pillar. The destroyed chains and ripped-up talismans were gathered by the side of the pillar. My goodness. Cal scoffed while looking at the condition of this stone pillar. He then heard a voice coming from behind him. Who are you? Cal turned his head. He looked down the mountain. There were tens of houses around the middle of the mountain. There were many people moving to and from those houses. Furthermore, Cal could see people with sculpting tools and axes heading up to where he was standing. He had made eye contact with them. Who the hell are you guys? Cal looked at the clothes of the people talking to him. They wore outfits made of animal fur and hides, as well as had handcrafted arrows and dull swords and axes. There was a total of 5 people. Ha! Anybody would be able to tell that they were mountain bandits. Cal was certain based on his years of experience reading fantasy novels, as well as someone who had seen mountain bandits on his way to the capital in the past. He heard Iruhaben's voice at that moment. They seemed to live on this mountain, a mountain covered in wild shrubs and people. It was the place for looted items to gather together. All of the people moving to and from the ships were mountain bandits. Cal understood why Iruhaben had been mumbling about his life earlier. Cal peeked behind him once again. He saw the large stone pillar. It was currently being shaped into a sculpture. Although it was only partially completed, Cal felt as if he could see an ugly mountain bandit with a large axe in his hand. The bandits in front of him all looked as if they were minions. And the one depicted in the incomplete sculpture was, naturally, the boss. It was a simple deduction. Cal heard the bandits speaking again. What is up with these old and stupid-looking peoples? You dare to intrude on the mountain of the indomitable ruler? Iruhaben added an explanation. Their leader's name must be the indomitable ruler. Cal let out a sigh. Why did the name have to include indomitable? He was tired of that name. However, things were better this way. Ron? Yes, young Master Nim. Doesn't your intuition, as someone who once lived in the eastern continent, say that they are mountain bandits? That does seem to be the case, young Master Nim. Cal turned his head. Beecrox was already putting on a pair of white gloves. Beecrox confidently asked when the two of them made eye contact. Shall I go? Cal looked toward the other side. The sword master Hannah was clicking her scabbard. On and Hong, who were probably with the invisible Rayon, were busy observing the scenery as if this discussion didn't matter to them. Cal turned back to the bandits. He did not want to see blood when the dwarves had dug some pits for them. He didn't want to get used to killing and didn't want to make anybody get hurt. However, he did not have any up-to-date information about the eastern continent. Beecrox, take off your gloves. Ron, Hannah? In that case, he just needed to loot them. Cal's gaze headed to the middle of the mountain again. Wonderful friends had come to greet him. He should accept their welcome. Let's do a simple introduction. Cal was smiling brightly toward the bandits. Hello, friends. There was nobody he knew here. Cal was planning to do a clean sweep. Taking things from these bandits would be the first step. Chapter 228. But it's more comfortable here? 2. The corners of Cal's lips were twitching. Human, you are smiling like that again. He has that weird smile. He always smiles that way when he is excited. Rayon, Hong, and On all spoke one after another, however. Cal did not listen to them at all. Swipe. 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 Beecrox was wiping the dust off of his white gloves. Although there was not much dust to start with, he could see the 5 people kneeling in front of him turning pale each time they heard the noise. However, none of the 5 had any injuries or blood stains on them. Ho ho ho. Ron had just laughed before moving quickly to choke each of them once. I'm itching to fight. A few of the trees nearby ended up being destroyed by the sword master Hannah, who didn't get to do anything. Beecrox was busy wiping the dust that was caused by Hannah's attacks off of his gloves and clothes. Of course, the 5 pale people were shaking in fear after seeing Hannah's golden aura and black smoke combination. Beecrox asked Cal a question after making sure that his outfit was spotless. What should we do? Should we torture them? Gasp. The people kneeling gasped. However, Cal had no intentions of listening to this vicious chef. He felt bad for the 5 extremely scared bandits. He too would be scared of going up against the combination of Hannah, Ron, and Beecrox. Cal leaned on a boulder as he gently smiled and addressed the 5 people. Don't be scared, okay? The 5 of them turned away from Cal and focused on the ground. Why are you avoiding my gaze? I'm not a scary person. We can't chat if you don't look at me. He had Iruhaben use language translation magic on him, so it would be a waste if he didn't get to use it effectively. The bandits' pupils were shaking as they looked back up at Cal. They could see the red-haired man who was smiling at them. He's the scariest one. This group of bandits was skilled as they had survived a year as bandits. They had seen many strong individuals during that time, however. The people in front of them were stronger than they could ever imagine. The head of this extraordinary group, the red-haired man, made them feel like candles in the middle of a storm. Cal looked toward the bandit kneeling in the center. "You," he pointed at that bandit with his finger. "Yes, sir." "Answer my question." "I don't want to. I really don't want to." "I'm afraid he's going to kill me." The bandit was stuttering as he asked back. "Me, but there are others as well. This is my first year, so I do not know much." The bandit had a look of despair as he saw Cal tilt his head to the side. "Because I feel like it." "Why, you don't like it?" Cal asked, thinking that he would make someone else do it if this one did not want to do so. There were 5 people, so he had options. "No, not at all. Please ask away." Cal felt iffy after seeing the kneeling bandit suddenly start bowing toward him. However, he decided to ask anyway, as he seemed determined to answer his question. He had already heard the approximate location of this mountain on the eastern continent from Iruhaben already. That was why he asked something else. "Tell me 10 bad deeds that your group has committed in the past month." "Excuse me?" "I thought you said it was a question." The bandit's pupils were shaking as he looked past Cal to Beecrox, who was putting on a new pair of white gloves. They were currently by the large stone pillar at the top of the mountain. A man's desperate voice echoed in the area. 1. We robbed a small merchant guild's carriage 2 days ago. He looked around before continuing on. 2. We stole all the money from travelers going by. There were a lot of travelers this past month. We believe in equality, so we robbed both the poor and the rich of all of their money. I cannot count how many people we have robbed this month. 3. We collected a significant amount of toll money whenever a mid-sized merchant guild traveled through. We pretty much emptied their pockets. We did it, even if the merchant cried. You all deserve to be beaten up. You're even worse than me. The comment from the woman covered in black scars made the bandit's hands start to shake. However, Cal's gaze made him continue to report the 10 worst deeds. 10. We destroyed a large-size merchant guild's carriage using logs. We stole the money that was inside and used it to buy booze and fool around. The bandit received a new question from Cal once he finished. What about human trafficking or the slave trade? The bandit responded back right away. We do not do those. Why? Are we supposed to do that? The bandit's pupils shook for a moment before he finally responded back. That is because our boss is a former slave. Oh, Cal's pupils turned cloudy for a moment. That is why we kill any slave traders who we find traveling through the mountain. The bandit got scared after seeing Cal smile and quickly explained further. As for the slaves, we let them go or let them join our group. I did not report that because that was a good deed and not a bad deed. Cal looked toward the bandit and casually remarked, "What an oddly bad group." Well, are bandits supposed to be good? The bandit could not understand Cal at all. However, Cal's questions did not stop there. "Tell me everything about this place and your organization." "Yes, sir." Clank, clank. The sound of the sword master clinking her sword in the scabbard made it impossible for the bandit to decline. The morning sun was beating down on the bandit's back. However, he could not help but feel extremely cold. Cal listened to all of the information before starting to speak. "So, what you are saying is that your organization is in control of this mountain, which is called Mount Lieb. Your organization's name is the Indomitable Bandits, and the leader's nickname is the Indomitable Ruler?" "Yes, sir." "What terrible naming sense." "Excuse me." Cal ignored the bandit's shocked expression as he started to think. Mount Lieb. That was the name of the mountain with the large stone pillar. He recalled what Iruhaben had told him. It is a mountain in the northwest region of the eastern continent. Even I didn't know about this mountain because I didn't have many reasons to go to the eastern continent. It's a fairly normal mountain. Lots of merchants and travelers pass by through every so often. That evaluation had confused Cal. But something is weird. Iruhaben had been confused as well. This place is not as dangerous as the Forest of Darkness, so why is the stone pillar here? I didn't even see any monsters. In fact, other than these bandits, it is a peaceful mountain. How weird. Cal had the same sentiments. The bandits were able to rule the mountain and people were able to walk through because there were no monsters. However, the super rock had placed the stone pillar in order to avoid the monsters of this continent. Was there a change to the eastern continent after the ancient times? That was the only explanation he could come up with. However, Cal started to get annoyed. It could not be helped. He pointed to the pillar behind him. So the reason you touched this stone pillar was because your leader's birthday is coming up and you wanted to create a sculpture as a gift. Roo-woo-all. The bandit's eyes were rolling as he answered back. That is correct. We thought only our leader's image should take place at the top of the mountain. I see. Cal started to smile brightly. They were trying to create a sculpture for their leader. He needed to listen to the super rock repeatedly ask, "Are you going to sacrifice yourself?" And come all the way to the eastern continent for this minor reason. The mental anguish had been worse. He was so worried that his house would be destroyed. I need to completely empty their stash. The bandit curled up in fear after seeing the anger on Cal's face. I am a just person. I can't pretend I didn't see people doing bad things. What kind of bullshit is this? That was the thought on the bandits' minds. They could see Cal slowly get up as the morning sun shined down on him. The bandits gulped as Cal pointed behind them. The bandits slowly turned around. Cal was pointing down below. He was pointing toward their base at the middle of the mountain. Lead the way. The 5 bandits became teary after hearing Cal's voice. He walked leisurely behind the bandits as he petted Hong, who was in his arms. Human, what are we going to do now? Cal casually answered once he heard Rayon's question. We need a house in the eastern continent as well. The bandits flinched before they started to walk faster while Rayon became excited. Is Mount Lieb going to become our house? Cal did not respond back. Mount Lieb. This decently large organization had built their base at the center of the mountain. High-quality wooden fences were built in front of the base in order to defend against intruders. However, some people appeared in front of the fence at this moment. The guard bandits raised their voices. Who goes there? Who dares to come to this place? Some of them started to frown as well. You traitors, how dare you bring intruders here? The 5 bandits had been getting up early in order to finish the sculpture. Seeing them bringing back intruders instead of finishing the sculpture made them angry. They were coming back with their heads down as well. They could easily tell that these 5 bandits had brought the group of people because they were scared. Boo-woo-woo-woo-woo-woo, boo-woo-woo-woo-woo, a horn flute sounded as the base became rowdy. This was the first time intruders had come to their base. However, the expressions on the faces of the bandits at the wooden fence were not urgent. You think you can take us down with that small number? That's impossible, ha-ha-ha. There's 3 in their group that look old or weak. Ron, Iruhaben, and Cal's eyebrows all twitched. Or are you coming to surrender to us? Ah-ha-ha-ha. The 5 bandits' faces turned paler and paler as more bandits provoked Cal's group from the fence. Kneel if you don't want to die. We will at least let you keep your life if you do that. One of the 5 bandits responded back after hearing a familiar voice mocking Cal's group. Shut up if you don't want to die, you stupid idiots. His voice was full of anger and sorrow. What? The bandits who had been happily mocking the group from the fence suddenly became anxious. They became even more anxious after seeing what followed. Why, you know nothing? Ugh! He was crying. The rookie bandit who had to chat with Cal earlier could not hold back his tears anymore. Pat, pat. Cal patted that bandit on the shoulder. You have a lot of tears. The bandit was in disbelief after hearing Cal's comment, but could not stop his tears. He had never met anyone as scary as these people in his life. He had thought that their leader was the scariest person in the world, but he was wrong. Who goes there? At that moment, the bandit heard the voice of the person he used to think was the scariest. The leader of the bandits showed up at the fence. Cal turned toward the source of the loud voice. The leader of the indomitable bandits, the indomitable ruler. That was what people called him. Nobody knew his real name. However, there was a slave branding mark on his right arm as he was a former slave. The leader Nim is extremely strong. Of course, he, does not seem to be as strong as all of you. Cal was curious to find out the strength of this former slave and leader of a large bandit organization. However, he started to frown the moment he saw the leader. Rayon started to speak in his mind. Human, doesn't that leader remind you of someone? Yes. He resembled someone they knew. Cal could immediately tell who that person was. Oh ho. The leader's eyes sparkled. He put his large axe on his shoulder as he started to smile. Ka-ha-ha-ha-ha, I haven't seen punks like this in a while. The leader's eyes focused on Hannah and Beecrox. It then stopped on Cal, who seemed to be the boss. I can smell it. Wow, he really is similar. This bastard is just like him. Rayon's voice echoed in his head the moment Cal had that thought. Ah, Bob, Rayon finally thought of the same person. The leader then stepped on one of the ledges of the fence. I smell strong people. He shouted that before jumping off of the fence. Boom! The man was close to 2 meters in height and had a great body that was muscular and filled with scars. He also had brown hair that was shooting out in all directions like a lion's mane. Rayon's voice echoed in Cal's mind once more. Tunka. Bob, he's like that idiot. Cal started to laugh. He could not help it after hearing Rayon's comments. The large man who jumped off the fence started to laugh as well while looking at Cal. To be specific, he was looking at Beecrox and Hannah. Hey, you must be strong. I can smell it. Cal recalled how Tunka had rushed toward Watira after saying the same thing. He had ended up in a mess like a shrimp caught in between 2 fighting whales because of it. He had come to the eastern continent because he was scared that this person who resembled Tunka would destroy his villa. Well, it was partially to learn more about Arm and the Water of Judgment as well. However, he had been so worried that his house would be destroyed. Ha. Cal let out a refreshing laugh. He knew what was best for people like this leader. Cal reached his hand out. Pat. Cal patted Beecrox on the shoulder. Capture him and punch him just 3 times. Chapter 229. But it's more comfortable here. 3. It became completely quiet at that moment. However, that silence was soon broken by someone's loud laughter. Ha. You're going to capture me and beat me up. Ah, you are really funny bastards. Boom! The large axe on his arm slammed down on the ground. The bandit leader started to glare at Cal. I hate weaklings who boss other people around the most. He was from somewhere that kept slaves locked up and made them fight, the gladiator arena. It was the place he had to fight against his sworn younger brother. His younger brother had made him smile up to the day of the fight. The bandit leader had to survive at the arena since he was 12 years old. The bastards that made him fight against his sworn younger brother were weaklings who only gave orders with their fingers. It feels good when I kill those types of bastards. His large body started to move. Gasp! The bandit who Cal was consoling gasped after seeing the bandit leader heading over toward him with the large axe. The axe was the size of an average adult. It was the symbol of the bandit leader's immense strength as well as a source of fear for the others. Even merchants would get scared when they saw this axe. Am I going to die? Do I need to dodge? All sorts of thoughts clashed in the bandit's head as he felt his body freeze up. However, he heard someone's voice at that moment. What nonsense are you talking about? The bandit turned his head. He could see a look of being unfairly judged on the face of the red-haired man. He thinks it is an unfair judgment. The bandit found it to be odd, but Cal truly felt he was wronged. Only sit back and give orders? Cal wished he had such a life. Why would he come all the way to the eastern continent if he could live that way? He would roll in bed and never get up. Cal was more emotional than ever from feeling wronged as he reached his hand out. Bang! A loud explosion echoed through the mountain. The bandit looked forward with his jaws dropped in shock. He could see Cal. He could also see the shield coming out of Cal's body. The axe was blocked by the shield. It did not manage to even leave a tiny scratch on the shield. The bandit leader put some more strength into his hands. He could see the red-haired man looking at him from the other side of the shield. He didn't know if this shield was made of magic or something else, however. His palm became numb the moment his axe struck it. He was born with a naturally gifted body. That was why he had never felt pain, or that he did not have enough strength. He was even able to win against most middle-grade knights. However, he felt that his strength was lacking for the first time in his life. The corners of his mouth started to go up. Heh. He could see the cold gaze of the man on the other side of the shield. Yes, it was this feeling, gladiator. There was something that allowed someone like him, who could originally not even lift a sword, to rise up from the bottom. It was not his gifted strength, but this sensation. The type of excitement you feel when you are walking on a tightrope. In the end, he had killed that sworn brother of his. He had felt sorrow as well as excitement the moment he killed his sworn brother. There was the sorrow that he was now alone. However, there was the excitement that he had won against his sworn brother who was stronger than him. He had realized that he was a crazy bastard. Heh. A bright smile appeared on his face. You weren't a weakling, you were strong as well. He could see the red-haired man opening his mouth to speak. You can't even reach his ankles. What? Cal continued on as the bandit leader's eyes became full of confusion. I feel sorry for Tunka. Who? The bandit leader started to frown as his opponent was talking about someone else when he was standing right there. He raised his axe once more. It was at that moment. He felt something behind his back. He started to get the chills. The bandit leader flinched as he twisted his body. However, he was already too late. Ugh! His large body tilted to the back. There was a hand in a white glove that was choking him. The man with the white glove easily pulled his body forward. The bandit leader tried to resist, but it was futile. He turned his gaze to the side. He could see a man's gaze as his body fell to the back. There was coldness and annoyance in the gaze. The man looked spotless as he held a greatsword in his gloved hand. The man calmly asked the bandit leader a question. Have you washed lately? What bullshit, ugh. Pow. The bandit leader's body that was falling down was slammed to the side. The side of the dagger had struck the bandit leader's body, delivering the shock through his entire body. Bang! The bandit leader's body slammed against the wooden fence. Ah, the ground is shaking. Hold on. Hey, hold on to me. The bandits who were leaning over the wooden fence held on for dear life as they could not hide their emotions. Anxiety, shock, and fear. All sorts of emotions filled the faces of the bandits, but Beacrox did not care as he looked toward Cal. Cal opened his mouth to speak. 2 more hits. Beacrox sighed and put on a new pair of white gloves as he approached the bandit leader. Ugh! The bandit leader slowly raised himself up from the ground. There was a giant dent in the shape of his body on the wooden fence. But as someone who was born with a naturally gifted physique, there was not a single injury on his body. However, his internal organs were still shaken up from the impact. What the hell? Shock was evident on the bandit leader's face. His mind was more shaken up than his internal organs that were still shaking from the impact. He had expected the enemy to be strong. However, he never expected them to be this strong. He looked toward Beacrox, who was approaching him, and clenched his axe once again. His hands were shaking. Why would such strong people show up at Mount Lieb? He clenched his fist and started to smile as he pondered that question. He just needed to defeat these strong individuals. He could feel that excitement again if he could do that. On the other hand, Cal let out a sigh. Tunka is definitely the stronger person. He had expected more from this bandit leader, as he and Tunka seemed to be the same type of person. However, this guy couldn't even reach Tunka's ankle. But that was probably why he was a bandit. Young Master Nim, isn't Beacrox strong? Why are you asking such an obvious question? Cal casually responded to Ron's obvious question as he observed Beacrox. Ron was talented in using his dagger for assassination. His son Beacrox was the opposite, as he used a great sword. The son had created his own path using the knowledge passed down from his father. He was someone who fought silently even while wielding a greatsword. Beacrox's sword style was as spotless and clean as his outfit. His style was fancier than most knights. It was as if he was beautifully decorating food. He attacked as if he knew the places on the human body that would hurt the most. Beacrox's sword style was a combination of all of those. Bang! Another loud noise could be heard. Cal could see the axe flying away as Beacrox's palm headed for the bandit leader's back. Pow! That's 2. Ugh! The bandit leader fell forward after being hit in the back. Anger and intense pain were evident in his gaze. He felt weak. He was too weak. That was why he recalled what he had done as a young gladiator in order to survive. He grabbed a handful of dirt before his body hit the ground. It didn't matter if it was unfair. It was his way of survival. His body twisted before it hit the ground. The bandit leader made eye contact with Beacrox and his hands started to move. He heard the red-haired man's voice as he did that. Huh, He sounded shocked. The bandit leader started to smile. Yes, I need to at least do this to deserve the title of indomitable ruler. The dirt in his hand was flung toward Beacrox's eyes. He felt as if he needed to do this to feel better. The dirt was thrown into the air as the bandit leader's body hit the ground. Boom. He fell with a loud noise, however. The bandit leader laughed on the ground as he looked toward Beacrox, who was covered in dirt. The originally spotless, noble-like man seemed extremely shabby like himself now. He heard the red-haired man's voice once more at that moment. I feel sorry for him. What? It was the moment the bandit leader felt something was off. Do you wish to die? The dirt-covered Beacrox's vicious eyes glared toward the bandit leader. What? The bandit leader felt his body turn stiff after seeing the new vicious look in Beacrox's eyes. The large sword pierced the ground next to him. Pook! The great sword was stabbed deep into the ground as Beacrox's angry eyes continued to stare at the bandit leader. Beacrox took off his white gloves. Plop! Plop! The white gloves were flung to the ground. Beacrox then started to speak to the bandit leader, who was looking at him. I will not kill you or make you bleed. I will not even torture you. What? Torture? Beacrox lifted up a finger as the bandit leader looked back at him with shock. 1. It could mean the one hit that he still had left, however. Beacrox meant something else. 100 hits. Just endure 100 more hits. Cal listened to Beacrox's voice as he turned his gaze to a faraway mountain. Pow, pow, pow. The pounding noise sounded like background music that surprisingly went well with the beautiful mountain Cal was looking at. Ah, please, stop, I'm so ugh. Cal could hear the bandit leader's scream as well as the mumblings of the bandit who was standing next to him. See, this is why you should have listened to me. You know nothing. Cal patted the bandit on the shoulder. The bandit's face went from pale to blue, however. Cal did not pay much attention to it as he looked toward the wooden fence. The other bandits flinched at his gaze before holding onto the ledge or their weapons. He could see fear and despair in their eyes. However, the bandits quietly opened the door for them after seeing their leader receive over 50 hits. Cal soon became the owner of the best house in the area, the bandit leader's house, as well as the expensive leather seat inside. Hey. Yes, sir. The bandit leader, who sported 2 black eyes, bowed respectfully as he responded to Cal. Multiple spots on his face were blue from being hit. However, there were no scratches, blood, or even broken bones. Cal took a bite of fruit that one of the sculpting bandits had brought over as he continued to speak. You guys are in control of Mount Lieb. Yes, sire. Speak properly. Yes, sir. Hang Nim. Why am I your Hyung? I'm sorry. Bandit leader Nim? Egu, why am I the bandit leader? Cal was in disbelief, but just let it go because it was annoying. There is something for all of you to do starting today. The bandit leader gulped as he looked at Cal. However, Cal was looking at someone else. The former bandit leader turned his head to look at the person as well. It was an old man with a benign smile on his face. He seemed fit for an old man, however. He gave off the aura of a scholar with a dagger by his side. Beacrox and Hannah both gave off the aura of a strong person right away. However, this old man did not seem strong at all. Is he a strategist or something? What is up with this weak old man? The former bandit leader had a blank expression on his face when Cal started to speak. He is our Beacrox's father. Father Nim, nice to meet you. The bandit leader smiled brightly as he respectfully greeted Ron. Cal's calm voice continued to speak as he did that. I heard there is an organization that has taken control of the Eastern Continent's underworld. Why, yes. Although they lived in the mountains, they needed to be knowledgeable about the underworld to sell their stolen goods. The Eastern Continent's underworld had been shaken up because of an organization for approximately the last 10 years or so. Everybody was busy protecting themselves after realizing there was a new power in control. However, the underworld was something that existed in the shadows, so trade continued to flow quite freely. Even if a single organization took control of it, it was hard to say it was completely unified. The underworld was such a place. You are called the indomitable ruler? Yes, sir. His intuition as the former bandit leader and an experienced slave gladiator was telling him something. I have a bad feeling about this. He could see Cal smiling brightly as he had that thought. Why do you ask, sir? The bandit leader could see Cal's smile as he responded back. You will be one of the underworld's rulers starting today. Excuse me? And this is the person who will be your boss. The former bandit leader could see the cold gaze in Ron's eyes, Ron Molan. The last head of the Molan household, one of the top 5 assassin households in the eastern continent that was destroyed by Arm. Cal had brought him back to the eastern continent. 1. Imagine the bandit leader speaking with a twang as he mispronounces Hyung Nim and says Hang Nim, chapter 230. But it's more comfortable here. 4. Ron's cold gaze headed toward Cal. Cal quickly turned his head away while making it look as nonchalant as possible. Human, Grandpa Ron's gaze is vicious. Cal's shoulders shuddered after hearing Rayon's comment. It could not be helped. Cal had not told Ron in advance that he would take control of the eastern continent's underworld. All he had said was to come with him since Ron knew the eastern continent well. Young Master Nim. Ron's voice did not have its usual gentle nature. The old man's vicious voice made Cal respond as a reflex. You are the only one I can trust to handle this. It was the truth. Compared to the terrible actor Choi Han, the innocent Mary, or the oddly talkative Vice Captain Hilsman, Ron was very fitting to be the ruler of the underworld. However, Cal could not look at Ron. He was scared. No matter how strong he got, this old man was oddly even scarier than Choi Han. Someone who charges at you and someone who stealthily approaches you and cuts your head off. Which of the two would be scarier? It is naturally the latter. Ron Molan was talented in quietly taking people's lives. Cal kept his mouth shut and tried his best to avoid Ron's gaze. However, Ron was focused on Cal's back right now. He was giving off such a scary aura that the former bandit leader kept his mouth shut in fear as he peeked back and forth between Cal and Ron. B-Crocs was in the corner cleaning the dust off of his greatsword, and pretending not to care, however, his full attention was on his father. The silence was broken as Ron started to speak. The person who has lost everything once and ran away has lost his viciousness and is now an old man. Ron was talking about himself. He had run away with B-Crocs after the Molan household went down and he had lost the rest of his family. He had lost his original viciousness and was now just an old man. He was too old to continue to develop like Choi Han or Mary. Ron was trying to tell Cal, who was asking him to take control of the eastern continent's underworld, the harsh truth. It was at that moment he could hear Cal's voice. It was full of disbelief. No more lies. Ron flinched. Cal still could not look at Ron, weak, not vicious, old. If Ron was considered weak, all of the other assassins in the world would need to retire. Why was he acting so modest, unlike his usual self? Cal did not hide the disbelief in his face. Ron could not say anything as he looked at Cal, who showed his true emotions. No more lies. Ron looked toward his young master, who was too tall to be called a puppy now. He could hear him grumbling. All you've been doing during your free time is cleaning your dagger. Weak, you don't know how scary you look each time you do that. My goodness. The smile on Ron's lips quickly disappeared. He looked down at his hands. What Cal had said was true. He was indeed wiping his dagger every day. There was a simple reason for it. It was because he didn't know when the enemies might appear and because they were in the middle of a war. There was no way he could keep his weapon away from himself during such a time. However, he suddenly thought about something. Is that really the only reason? He turned his head. He could see his son B-Crocs wiping his greatsword off. His son did not avoid his gaze and looked him directly in the eyes. An odd smile appeared on his son's usually stoic face. Father, you were caught. That was what the smile seemed to be saying. Yes, he had been caught. Ron started to slowly smile as well. It was a cold smile that was far from his usual gentle smile. Choi Han, Mary, and Hilsman. His hands and feet had been itching to move as he watched their battles. While his feelings were a bit different than the sword master Hannah's itchiness for battle, his entire body was boiling with passion. He knew that the chances of an old man like himself growing were much smaller than the chances of those younger punks. However, he could not put his dagger down. He had trained his fake arm early every morning before going to wake Cal up. What was the reason for that? Old my ass. You still got decades to live. He looked at his puppy young Master Nim, who was grumbling. A benign smile appeared once more on Ron's face. "Young Master Nim, everything you said is true." Cal slowly turned his head. He felt his heart sink the moment he made eye contact with Ron. "I have too much greed to be a boring old man just yet." "Why is an old man's gaze so vicious?" Cal put his hand over his heart and gulped. Ron did not care as he looked toward the bandit leader and started to speak. "We return grace at 100 times the value of what we received, while we get our revenge by bringing death to our enemies." Ron believed everybody had an internal candle within their minds. The candle slowly starts to go out as you get older until the light goes out and you live your life in a cold world filled with darkness. However, he had been wrong. The thing that was putting out the candle of his heart was not the shrinking base, but the wind that he allowed to enter. Furthermore, he had chosen to turn away from the small flame that continued to burn. He finally realized it. Ron started to take care of the small flame that was close to going out. Doing that allowed him to feel it properly. He could feel his unwavering determination that was saying that he could keep on going for a long time. "Young Master Nim, thank you very much." He thanked the person who helped him find that tiny flame that was still burning strong inside of him. On the other hand, Cal was feeling chaotic. "What is with the sudden revenge by bringing death, then thanking me?" He was anxious as he could not figure out what was going on. However, seeing Ron's gaze returning to normal along with the benign smile made him relax, for now. His heart that had sunk in fear started to beat normally again. He heard someone's voice as he calmed back down. "But, Bandit Leader Nim?" The former bandit leader looked toward Cal and cautiously started to speak. Cal looked at him with a gaze that seemed to be asking, "What do you want?" As the bandit leader continued to speak, "Won't we need a lot of money to control the underworld? In terms of strength, I believe these great individuals around you should be enough." Cal's expression turned odd. I guess he really isn't the same as Tunka. Tunka would not have cared about money or anything else other than destroying everything. In that aspect, this former bandit leader was surprisingly sly and intelligent. That was probably what allowed him to escape from slavery and become the leader of a bandit group. Cal calmly started to speak, as he liked people like this who knew how to use their heads. You needed more money and strength in order to move up in a dirty place like the underworld. As the bandit leader said, money was more important than strength in the beginning stages of taking control of the underworld. Do it with your money. My money? Yes, your money. Don't you have a lot saved up from all the bad deeds you've committed? Cal was planning on taking everything from this bandit group. There is none. What? The former bandit leader awkwardly scratched his head at Cal's question. We live as if each day is our last. We only have enough money to party for about a week. Ha 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 ha. The bandit leader felt the atmosphere getting colder as he laughed even louder. However, his back was quickly being covered in sweat. He gulped after seeing Cal sigh and brushing his face with his hands. He felt as if he was suddenly in serious danger. He heard a calm voice at that moment. Then I will give it to you. Excuse me? The bandit leader watched as Cal took a bag out of his pocket and threw it onto the table. The pretty large bag fell onto the table and opened up. Clang, all sorts of jewels fell out of the bag. Wow, shit, wow, this. The bandit leader could not speak properly. He had robbed quite a few merchant guilds until now, however. He had never seen so many jewels before, nor anyone who would calmly throw them around like they were nothing. The bandit leader's gaze headed toward Cal, the owner of the bag of jewels. Cal had changed a portion of his earnings from the auction house into jewels and brought it with him before coming to the eastern continent. He casually added on to the bandit who was looking at him. Well, I can bring you hundreds of bags like this, so you won't need to worry about money. The former bandit leader felt as if there was a bright aura coming from behind Cal. At the same time, he felt a sense of fear. Who was this person who had such strong individuals such as his subordinates and had so much money? Cal got up from his seat at that moment. The former bandit leader who had been kneeling jumped up as well. We will start at a nearby city. Got it? Yes, sir, the bandit leader responded loudly, and Cal walked past him before adding on. Good, we will start with mental conversion now. Excuse me. We need to fix that rotten mind of yours that made you do those terrible deeds. Cal watched Ron gather the jewels as he ignored the gaze of the bandit leader, who would not be able to use even 10 gallons without permission in the future. He then looked toward Beacrox, who put on a pair of white gloves and got up from his seat. That made the former bandit leader ask a question. Why do I need mental conversion? That was his question. Don't I need to become even more terrible in order to be the ruler of the underworld? Don't I need to become even more rotten? Cal had no problem responding to that question. It's whatever I want. The bandit leader was at a loss for words. In addition, anybody who continues their bandit ways will be beaten to a pulp. Anybody who steals someone else's things or hurts someone else will be goners. The bandit leader had a lot he wanted to say, but could not get himself to say it. I thought you wanted me to be the ruler of the underworld. Isn't doing what you're saying just turning me into a good person? However, he kept his mouth shut after seeing the cold gaze in Cal's eyes. Cal walked out the door as he said one last thing to the bandit leader. As for your sculpture, you're dead if you make it. Cal ignored the shock on the bandit leader's face as he walked out of the house. He could see the bandits bowing their heads and moving away once they made eye contact with him. He heard Rayon's voice in his head at that moment. Weak human. Something is weird. Why are you giving him all of that for free? I'm sure Grandpa Ron will use the expensive jewels properly, but you are spending money too frivolously. Cal calmly responded back to the child, who seemed to be in a state of chaos. It's nothing much. Think of it as an investment of sort. Weak human. What does that mean? Cal looked toward the direction of the city that was the closest to Mount Lieb. It was the city that the bandits went to sell off their stolen goods. That meant that the underworld was quite developed there. Cal started to smile. He needed to take control of a few of the organizations in charge of the underworld in that city in order to start the takeover of the entire eastern continent's underworld. Once that happens, the wealth of those organizations will naturally become his. I'm going to take all of the money away from the bad guys. Of course, he was only planning on taking money from Arm and other really terrible people. Wouldn't stealing from bad guys make him even worse than them? I'll properly enjoy being trash. Since there was nobody who knew him here, he was planning on taking whatever he can. So human, you're saying that we're going to take money from the bad guys? That is the case. I like this way of making money very much. Cal felt as if he could hear Rayon's wings fluttering. Cal and Rayon were both silently laughing. Iruhaben, who was coming back from observing the stone pillar, noticed this and had an ominous feeling after seeing Cal's expression. Why is the unlucky human laughing like that? The kittens On and Hong, who had gone with Iruhaben, started to mumble. Nuna, I don't know what is going on, but it looks like we're going to have some fun. I think there is a good chance that it won't be fun at all. Nobody, including Iruhaben, heard the sighing of the silver kitten On. Cal looked at the former bandit leader who was coming out in order to receive his mental conversion as he asked, What is the name of the closest city? It is Liban City. What is it famous for? It is a free city. So many adventurers and mercenaries frequently come through. That made Cal smile while the bandit leader flinched. A free city. That meant that there were no noble families that ruled over it. It was a city controlled by a few people in power. Furthermore, it was a city with a lot of mercenaries. In that case, what would they be famous for? Then the underworld must be famous as well. The bandit leader put on a sly smile at Cal's question. It is quite famous in the eastern continent's northwest region. There should be a ton of people to backstab. Cal decided where he would start to build his base in the eastern continent. A few days later, the ancient dragon Iruhaben let out a deep sigh. Now I know how you end up being so unlucky. You put yourself in such terrible situations all the time. Egu. However, nobody was listening to his ramblings. They were all busy taking care of their individual tasks. Meow. Meow. The two kittens quickly jumped up the wooden steps and headed toward the second floor. Screech, screech. The wooden steps screeched as the kittens jumped on them. Human? I will follow them as well. Rayon was flying in the air above On and Hong. Beacrox frowned as he wiped the table with his gloved finger. It returned with a lot of dust. Ha! Although Beecrox was sighing, Cal was quite satisfied with what he saw as he turned toward Ron and the former bandit leader. Not bad. Indeed, young Master Nim. Ron almost looked toward the former bandit leader with a satisfied gaze. The former bandit leader blinked his now black eye as he started to speak. I am quite knowledgeable about Liban City. Liban City. It was the closest city to Mount Lib, and the place that the bandit leader had always came to sell off his stolen goods. It was a city with a quite developed underworld, as well as one of the free cities. Many mercenaries and adventurers came through this city. One screech, screech. Cal looked down at the steps that screeched every time someone stepped on them. Yes, it is very old. It was a deserted inn that looked as if a strong breeze could knock it over. Cal was satisfied as he looked at the 3-story inn that the bandit leader acquired in Liban City. He then continued to speak to the bandit. Hey, the basement. Yes, sir. The former bandit leader quickly headed toward the counter. He then moved a table in order to reveal a hidden door. Screeched the door to the basement that had not been used for a long time slowly opened up. The bandit leader quickly started to explain. There used to be an illegal casino here in the past, and the owner was my friend. What happened to him? He fled to another city with his money. That's why the inn was deserted. Yes, sir, it has been deserted for around 5 years. Boom. The door to the basement opened completely with a small noise. Cal could make out the steps through the darkness. It is a small 3-story inn on the outside, but has enough space in the basement to fit at least 300 people. Cal started to smile along with the bandit leader. You're quite smart. Thank you. The bandit leader scratched his head and answered in embarrassment. This would be the perfect place as a secret base to do bad things. Smart boy. Thank you, Cal left the smiling bandit alone as he pushed the inn door open. Screech it became loud as soon as he came outside. He could hear many people speaking on the streets. Where are you going today? Someone was looking for a person to catch a wild boar that was ruining their field. That's where I'm going. Someone supposedly found an old base over the mountain. It seems to have a lot of history behind it. Oh, then I should head over there as well. Cheap traveler's robe for sale. We have other equipment as well. This is the Inn of Flowing Dreams. We have a grand opening discount for all guests. Extended stay guests welcome. Cal smiled while standing outside the inn. Many mercenaries and adventurers, as well as residents of Liban City, were busy starting their days. He could see some street artists as well. This seemed to be the gathering spot for all of the bright spots of Liban City. He was full of satisfaction. The bandit leader had found a great spot. It's full of energy. Cal turned his head. He could see the part of Liban City that was still dark and quiet. That was the red light district and the location of the underworld. He turned his gaze away from the side that would become vibrant during the night time and looked at the new plaque he placed over the inn entrance. Cal had come up with the name for the inn, the old 3-story inn. Starting today, this would become a place that adventurers and travelers come to find hope and love. Of course, the hidden meaning behind the name was that there would be plans in the basement for the dream and hope of backstabbing the bad guys and the heart-pounding adventurers of going into the bad guys' bases and making them kneel. Isn't it a great name? I really came up with a great name. Cal had a warm gaze as he looked at the old inn. It was a good start. Not sure why he needed to repeat all this information. PR, word count probably, lol.